Testing 1, 2. Hello there. Wait, wrong camera on. Hello. How is everyone? White balance is a little weird. I'm in my more relaxed summer clothes today. Hawaiian shirt and all. Let me fix the white balance. Hello, Amarelli. Oh, wait, this is the button for white balance. Can I see the camera? Yeah, that's more orange. Maybe I can just adjust it. Can I? If I do this? No. I think it used to be that. Okay, so this is... I think we'll do this. A Hawaiian shirt in Berlin is a choice. Well, there is a, I mean, is the heat wave still ongoing? Not really. It's kind of taking a break, but it is hot. Berlin or not Berlin, it's hot. I think I kind of fucked up. Wait, let me do something. Okay, I'm just gonna join the Tryon. If you decide to join the chat, you will be on stream. Just letting you know. But I also need to fix a couple of things sound-wise. Okay, so I think I fucked up because I was just checking the video game that we wanted to play, which is not this one. This is the game that I was playing this afternoon. Operation Epic Furious, which is a parody of Operation Epic Fury, the name that the Trump administration chose for the war in Iran. Just give me a second. I'm just going to switch to full screen in case. Okay. We're going to make this, that, and this, that. Cool. Is there something I want to talk about? Anything you want to talk about? Do you want to actually, I was watching a video about data centers earlier today, and it was kind of a counterpoint to what we were talking about yesterday. So I thought that was maybe worth watching on stream. And if you want to join for that, that could be cool. Anyway, the hell is this? Wait a second. Yeah, that's a problem. Okay, there you go. Fixed. Put on the presentable shit. I was planning to play this game right here. And it turns out it's not working. So I don't think we're going to be able to play that. We'll find something else to do, though, don't worry. But yeah, this sucks. I'd seen some fun, like, it had some fun, like, retro game aesthetic to parodying the Trump admin. So that's too bad. Is there something else we can play? Let me check if it's on a different platform, maybe. Is it like available on Steam? I doubt it. Hmm. It would be so much nicer if I did this stuff in advance. Where is the... What Gmail did this send to? Okay, there we go. And Twitch streams should be fixed in theory. If someone wants to go test the Twitch stream, it is working. Yeah, I can't keep this on screen forever, so I'm just not gonna click on that. But if anyone is watching on Twitch and it stops working, let me know in YouTube chat. What is the source for data center issues with water? Someone told me that it comes from a study that was taken out of context, so I'm curious what the truth is. I don't know specifically for data centers. I don't know if you're referring to something more specific than what I have in mind, but there's a good Hank Green video on AI use of water that I think is quite interesting because it kind of goes back and forth, and it yeah, we can look at that in a second. Operation Epic Furious. Nope, no results. Welp, I messed up and I overpromised as I usually do, and we are not going to be able to play this. As Bojack Horseman says, I don't have a commitment issue, I have a following through issue. Okay, so Hank Green AI water. Why is everyone so wrong about AI water use?
That's
a title.
Overpromising, unheard of.
Yeah.
Absolutely unheard of. Let's see if I can pull off the setup.
Sam Altman says that the average...
Put me somewhere on screen so people can
Yeah, okay,
see how much whiter my hair has gotten from dabbling in Bulgarian politics.
Let me figure out how to do that. Meeting
I have to
room.
figure out. Oh, damn! Camera just worked off rip. Fantastic. No, that's the wrong direction. That's still the wrong
Why is this
direction.
not opening?
Uh,
You are
I'm sorry
very, very
about the
backlit.
light.
Yeah.
I am, because that's just the outside. Let's see if I can fix it. No.
I think the only way to fix that is to close your blinds.
Ain't nobody got money for blinds. How bold of you to assume I can afford such luxuries?
Mm. Okay, so opening this in different window. Opening you in full screen. There you go. I can't hear you. Is that because of me or?
No, it's me. I muted my microphone.
Okay, give me a sec. I need this to be in almost full screen, but not quite. And putting you on screen. Now. Heh, wrong one. Discord properties.
Wouldn't it be better if I was Sam Altman? Worse for my moral standing, but at least
Yeah.
financially better.
It would be better for your financial status, yeah, for now. Okay, so we now have
and maybe for humanity.
You kind of look like an anonymous interview. You know, the black silhouette.
Well, for the duration of the daylight, I'll be out here looking like somebody trying to bait the AFD to deport them. I'm not in Germany, but I'm sure they'll find a way.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a SingTube page, and we can watch these two videos together.
All right. Just briefly, while you do that, chat is talking about the water usage of AI data centers or data centers in general.
That's what this first video is going to be about.
You don't actually have to use the data center for AI purposes. The bigger issue is that we're using the same infrastructure we're using for our drinking water, for the water we fuel to industries and stuff like that. The problem is less the water usage and more the fact that the infrastructure did not intend to have a gigantic demand on it be placed on some guys trying to make, well, Skynet, but shitty Skynet. I don't know. Calling AI Skynet is not even. I'm running out of jokes, by the way. That's where we've gotten to.
Yeah, I mean, so how can I put this? This second video we'll watch is going to make the case for not exactly AI, like not exactly shitty Skynet, but yeah, more of a taking AI seriously kind of thing. Okay. Did you manage to join the page?
I have indeed.
Okay, so I'm just going to play this, and you can tell me to stop when you want me to stop.
Sam Altman says that the average ChatGPT query uses around...
is doubling on stream. We'll see.
Your audio is working fine, as far as I can tell.
No, when the video starts.
Okay.
0.000085 gallons of water, or roughly Sam Altman, 1/15 of a teaspoon. But then at the same time, Sam Altman, Morgan Stanley projection.
Okay, apparently I have to pause before I can scrub through the video. Let's go.
Sam Altman says that the average ChatGPT query uses around 0.000085 gallons of water, or roughly 1/15 of a teaspoon. But
video's not working for you? Try refreshing, because I see you as still joining, but not quite joined.
Huh.
I'm gonna refresh this as well.
Okay.
Hello, Ricardo. How are you doing? A data center is just a computer scaled up. When you run your laptop, you don't use any water. Why would a scaled up computer use water? I think you're kind of really oversimplifying. First of all, you could cool your computer with water if you chose to. You could do that. It's not literally they take a laptop and they just make a really big laptop. It is a computer scaled up, and the best way to cool that computer is with lots of water.
Calling a data center scaled up computer is calling a spaceship a scaled up bicycle.
Basically, yeah.
I appreciate the idea. They do the same thing. You get from point A to point B. But no.
Aren't there? I know that there are computers that are like liquid cooled. Obviously, it's not with water. Are there actually water cooled computers?
You can make a water cooled computer.
Yeah, there are water cooled GPUs. There are water.
They're just better liquids for this.
So yeah, no. It's. Imagine you show up at a data center and it's just like a really big laptop. Like you like jump from key
what's
to key
powering the fan that you're cooling this with? Also, laptops are infamous for overheating, so I don't
know. No, exactly. Like my laptop, my laptop should be kind of powerful, except for the fact that the fan is constantly overworking. Anyway.
No, really?
So let's see if it plays now.
Right.
Hey.
Sam Altman says that the average ChatGPT query uses around 0.000085 gallons of water, or roughly 1/15 of a teaspoon. But then, at the same time, somehow a Morgan Stanley projection predicted annual water use for cooling and electricity generation by AI data centers could reach around 1,000 billion liters by 2028. That's 1 trillion liters, an 11-fold increase from 2024 estimates. AI water use is extremely easy to mislead people about for a few different reasons. And one of them is that the average American has not updated their understanding of what water use is since they were in elementary school. And this is fine. We don't all need to understand this stuff, but then it gets dragged into the discourse, and of course we all talk out of our asses while experts rub their temples from the sidelines. So look, as far as I can tell, though OpenAI does not let people inspect the sources of their data, both of these numbers are true. 1/15 of a teaspoon per query and 1 trillion liters of water per year by 2028. And you might think, okay, well, Morgan Stanley must just be imagining a future where there's a tremendous number of queries. But no, actually. No matter how you multiply a...
Yep. I assume this is what he's going to talk about in the video. But AI doesn't only do queries.
No, that's what he's about to talk about, yeah. He's gonna make a few points related to, like, a query is not the thing that you type into ChatGPT. Like, when you type something, that to you that's one query, but it's actually multiple queries for ChatGPT.
No,
it's gonna do multiple things.
Everything. The way the current language models work is that it resends every single message you have sent to it whatever frame it's set to remember. Like, because AI cannot do context. This is the start problem of everything. This is why AI is like imagine things. They can't do context. Context is you have to be a living creature to acquire it type of deal. Maybe in like sometimes somebody's gonna figure it out, but it ain't gonna be me and it ain't gonna be this technology. Because, well, this technology is not made to do this. So they just resend everything you've sent within whatever parameters the company has set up to remember. It could be the current session, it could be the last 10 sessions, it could be the last 50 messages. That's down to a company, how much they've made you pay, yada, yada. That all goes into it, and it reprocesses all of this every time. So even if it is a teaspoon per query per se, your one message could be however many queries, and that doesn't address the training data, doesn't address the fact that it has to like create models, it doesn't address the fact that an AI system has to keep running even if nobody's using it. You cannot shut it down. There isn't a switch on and off button. Well, there is, but if you do that, you're going to screw up your model. So it's a very nice way from Sam Altman to pretend he's not a problem, but there is a problem.
Yeah.
How bad? I am not the person to comment.
Let's just go a couple more minutes into the video because I think he's going to bring up some of the bigger issues with the claim of like, oh yeah, if you count it per query, it's only like this tiny amount because like that's a fundamentally dishonest way of looking at it.
Yeah.
15th of a teaspoon, you're never going to get anywhere close to 1 trillion liters of water use. The thing is, water consumption analysis, indeed any resource consumption analysis for an industry or a product or a conversation with a chatbot is really tricky to do. There are multiple fields of economics and science devoted to this. If you're going to try and package that up into some nice, neat numbers that the average person will understand, you're going to be fudging a lot of stuff. So this seems like a good time to actually get into why it's so hard. But first, this video is brought to you by a little outfit called Ground News. Ground News is a website and app that put one way to say it, coverage of the safely
When they pay you.
tons of different
Exactly.
They get to stay when they pay you.
Yep.
of interpreting this. Trump says that he will sign executive order
Come on.
blocking state AI regulations despite safety fears. And you can see a version of this from the right. Trump to issue one rulebook AI executive order after Congress fails to curb bad actors states. So it's the fault of Congress here. So that's the kind of thing where you could see a very different version of reality depending on what your news budget looks like. And also, honestly, I'm not sure without like using regular news if I would have heard about this at all. You can subscribe to the 40% off Vantage plan using 40% off the Vantage plan using the QR code that's been on the screen the whole time, or by using my link, which is ground.news/Hank, which you can also click in the description. So why do data centers use water at all? So the actual computer chips that do the processing for
I guess this will answer your question, Ars the Devil.
AI get hot when they run, but also they don't work as well when they get too hot. So you got to cool everything down so that everything runs optimally and the chips have their optimal lifespan, and you're optimizing everything so you get like the most processing power per unit of dollars you spend. Part of that is cooling everything down, and one of the most efficient ways to do that is
doing
with
that
water.
at the
Many
moment.
facilities use evaporative cooling, where they literally turn clean water into water vapor, and that water vapor carries the heat away. It's warmer, and it's taking the heat away. Good. Now, that's not the only way you
Pause
do
for
it.
a
Some
second.
sites recycle
I wonder if
This
they
is
can-
exactly how we cool nuclear reactors.
Yeah, I was
This is the
wondering.
same process.
It's not just that we cool nuclear reactors that way. It's that nuclear reactors are just giant kettles that just boil water, and the
Everything
the
that is
steam
not a
from
solar
the
panel
boiling
is a
water-
giant kettle.
Yeah, exactly. Any power generation is just a giant kettle, and so the steam from the boiling water evaporates and turns a turbine, and the turbine spinning is what makes the electricity. Does every outlet in a data center have a turbine that generates electricity for the data
You
center? Would
could,
that make sense to make
in
that? I don't know.
theory. Well, okay. Person not qualified to discuss power generation, but at one point try to write a thing about it. In theory, if you have something producing heat, no matter what the source of the heat is, you could try to produce power with it.
Mhm.
Anything that produces heat can have this heat be converted back into power, because heat is just excess energy. The warmth of your body is your body having excess energy from the food you've eaten, and this applies to everything. Heat is just energy. So if you funnel it the right way and use dispersion the right way, you could put a few turbines next to a data center. It's not going to be efficient, and the data center cannot be powered by those because the chips need electricity to run. You would have a perpetual motion machine if you could power the chips with the
I'm
heat
not
there
saying that
themselves.
you're gonna power the entire data center based on
But
turbines
yes,
that are
in
you know,
theory,
spinning from the
if you
heating of
have
the data center. But yeah,
if you have enough water coming in from somewhere, and you run it through your data center, which heats it up, and then as vapor you have it exit through a properly set up system, you could have some turbines there that will produce some amount of energy back. Maybe just enough energy to power your cooling system, but it's something, if that's your question. In theory, you should be able to. Somebody
can
who knows
power,
better than
like-
me should detail it.
it can power the coffee machine and the break room of the janitors of the data center, basically.
Oh, bold of you to assume that data centers employ human janitors.
Presumably, they have to have like at least someone there.
I mean, they probably do. Seeing how like the data centers being built in Bulgaria are currently like hiring everybody off the street they can get that fits their requirements. Maybe.
So Ars
I
the
don't
Devil is
know.
asking, okay, will the water that is used in that way be contaminated? Well, I think the water that is used in that way is just evaporated into the sky. So
No,
it's not
it isn't.
contaminated. It just I mean, according to this diagram, it evaporates into the sky.
No, usually it goes through a cooling station and turns back into water and is checked down the river.
Okay.
You can't just evaporate water into nothing. Well, at least on this continent, that's illegal.
I mean,
if
that's
you're
also
this type
what power plants do.
No.
Like the giant, stacks.
Okay,
mean,
yes,
they're
that
power
is
plants.
vapor.
Yeah, water
Yes,
vapor.
but
That's what I'm
that's
saying.
not the same water that cools the reactor. The water that cools the reactor goes elsewhere.
That's the water that is boiled
Spins the
by the
turbine.
reactor's, power generation.
Yes, but it's not the water that cools the reactor. These are different sets of water.
Okay.
Because the water that cools the reactor still has some trace amounts of radioactivity in it. It doesn't go in contact with the reactor, because then we would be having shiny water flowing to the rivers, but still.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, that's a vapor tower that you're referencing, and I guess you do just let that go into the air, and I'm thinking of different stuff. I guess
Wait,
you could just
so-
blow this water. Yeah, you're right, the diagram does show it going into the air.
So the thing is,
You are right.
It shows. What are the red arrows here?
I think
What
it's
is
hot
OA,
air going somewhere.
MERV, fans, IDEC, HX, trim cooling coil, and there's blue stuff coming back down here, SA, but not that kind of SA. Yeah,
Hopefully.
I don't know what all of these refer to, but it looks like there's some level of circularity here. So yeah.
No, but you are right that some
Literal-
amount of the vapor is just evaporated into the air.
Yeah, but then there is a good question though of what is this water? If this water is being pumped from, say, underground water tables or whatever, what happens to the water once it cools the data center? Not nuclear reactor, just
It
data
rains
center,
on your
'cause
head, apparently.
It what?
It rains on your head, apparently.
Yeah, I mean probably some of it, but is that? Yeah, I mean I guess what seems to be the case is that it just evaporates and they just use different water, and some of this water is going to rain somewhere else. Yeah, I'm not
We're
not
pumping
sure about
hot
that.
stuff into the atmosphere. I wonder if we
'Cause-
have any problems with that right now.
Because I'm assuming it doesn't get contaminated by the data center. It's not like
No,
it doesn't get radioactive like it would in a power plant.
at the best there would be some dust particles from the circulation of the gigantic computer we have down there, but this is nowhere close
Yeah,
to
but that's
contamination that makes a difference. That's just
Okay.
dust, and dust is everywhere.
So maybe I'm okay. So maybe this is the problem. Is you are evaporating water to cool the power plant.
Data center, this kids.
So to cool the data center. You're evaporating water to cool the data center. Now you have water vapor that is hot because it essentially trapped the heat of the data center into that water vapor is like the thermodynamics of it. If you wanted to then recondense that water into liquid water, you would have to trap the heat out of that water vapor to retransform
in
it
a big
into
chamber.
liquid water, which would reheat the data center. So you can't do that. That's why it has to remain water vapor. Otherwise, you're just like cooling the water vapor and just reheating it and recooling it and reheating it with the same amount of water.
Do you know how the Vietnamese dispersed smoke when they were cooking in the tunnels during the Vietnam War?
I'm not familiar with that.
They just created
practice.
gigantic boxes of empty space on the ground, and all the smoke would go into like several cubic kilometers of empty space, and then it would vent out into the above ground. And it was so spread out by then that nobody noticed it. You could just put like a gigantic chamber.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could.
You could put a Walmart-sized building on top of the data center.
Considering the data
and
center
have
is
the water
already a
naturally-
Walmart-sized building.
well, you have to expand it a few times. So maybe there's 5 Walmarts on top of the Walmart. And the water would essentially naturally cool down back into water, and then you can maybe funnel it back into the data center. You are in the process making some warm concrete, but I don't know if that can have consequences.
Yeah. I
That's
think there's
way outside my knowledge.
I think the for them the better solution is just like evaporate the damn thing and take more water. So yeah, that's the answer. Is just like the water just gets evaporated. That's why, which seems like a terrible way of doing this. I'm kind of shocked that there isn't a better, because like you were saying, there are better liquids to cool your computer, and I'm assuming that there would be a problem.
Not at that scale.
Yeah, the scale would be the problem. Would be cooling, like using
how much
the
liquid nitrogen do you want to make?
Exactly, at the scale of a data center is the issue. So yeah, that's what happens basically. That's been something that I've been wondering about for a while, and now I have kind of an answer. Basically like a nuclear reactor, but contributes nothing to society and makes it worse. Yeah, basically.
Yes. Just ask the Pope.
I understand why water consumption would be an issue in the desert region, but what region electricity consumption seems valid to complain about, but not the water? Okay, just a second, because I saw something.
1 second, I need to look at the question. Okay, should I address this question while you're looking for your thing?
Sure, yes.
Okay, in very simple terms, Ares, no country is building excess amount of infrastructure for the water that flows to your tabs. Just to give you an example, my hometown has a problem where there is an illegal neighborhood in my hometown, and extra infrastructure had to be built to supply water there, because by Bulgarian law, you have to have water for people. The buildings might be illegal, they still have to have water. So that created a problem where just simply wasn't enough water, and we had to, like the city, I didn't do it. The city had to connect a whole new reservoir to the city system to supply water to that illegal neighborhood. The supply of water we have circulating that we can drink, that we used to wash and all these stuff, there's a limited amount of it, not because there is a limited amount of water. Technically, there is also a limited amount of water, but that's a whole different shebang. The problem is that the infrastructure existing to supply and spread that water to people who use it is limited. And a data center is incredibly thirsty. It's thirstier than Donald Trump at Epstein's Island. It's thirsty as fuck, man. So, yeah, I've immediately gotten the stream demonetized. Within a few minutes of showing up. But the point is less that... Essentially, the thing is, if you want to use water for data centers, you have to very quickly build up a vast amount of... grew up water privileged. Yes, those of us who lived in functional countries are to an extent water privileged. I really don't want to think about that because it's a perspective I'm not comfortable dealing with. Yeah, no, come to think of it, there is people who just do not get clean drinking water. I'm just gonna push that to the part of my mind that does not address issues and leave it there. But yeah, that is in essence the problem. It's not that there isn't enough water. I'm sure that unless you're in a desert, you could probably find enough water. I mean, for once we can just distill seawater.
I'm very quickly going to remonetize stream before answering another one of those questions. Boop.
Sorry, is there like something in the YouTube backend that actually demonetize? Okay. We remonetize, lads. There is a cat.
Look at this big derp. Anyway, so the problem is map shows where data centers are being built in drought-hit areas, according to Newsweek. Oh. And here's the map. I love that the map is like most of the US is a drought-hit area at this point. Thank you, climate change. Which data centers are going to make worse, by the way. But we have, the map goes from like abnormally dry to moderate to severe to extreme to exceptional. And you have all, so these data centers, I guess, are fine when it comes to water use, especially around the Great Lakes. Like if you're building data centers around the Great Lakes, you're still contributing to climate change. You're still contributing to a lot of problems, but at least in terms of water use, you're probably fine. Although, isn't Flint, Michigan near the Great Lakes, and they were switched to lead contaminated water because a corporation started to use the clean water that they had previously? So no, there's issues everywhere. Like, I don't even know if drought is the only metric here. But
ironically, if you use like renewable or nuclear energy to power your data center, you're not actively contributing to global warming with your data center.
I mean, you kind of are, just from the amount of heat that you're generating.
But that's a closed system. It's gonna rain down on you.
It's much less. But yeah. And the other thing, it's kind of like when they say, hey, we have figured out technology to capture carbon from the atmosphere. It's just that it's extremely power intensive. So we are going to build a bunch of solar panels to capture, to power the plant that is capturing carbon from the atmosphere. And that sounds like a great idea until you realize that instead of building solar panels to power the plant that's capturing carbon from the atmosphere, you could build solar panels to power the stuff that would therefore not release carbon into the atmosphere. And that's the thing. It's you are contributing to climate change if you are using renewables to power your data center, because you could just not have that data center and use renewables to power something else. But yeah, anyway, the problem is that there's a bunch of data centers being built in places that do not have water. You can't build all your data centers in really wet areas. And even in really wet areas, you can't use seawater to cool data centers because you can't have
which is the
there.
brave soul building data centers in Texas? Why do you cool those down with prayers? I get the ones that are up north close
Texas,
to
so I wouldn't be too surprised. I mean, there are data centers being built in Lincoln County. Is this Nevada? There are data centers being built in Nevada, buddy. New Mexico, Texas, Arizona, maybe somewhere. Arizona.
What do you
Arizona.
need those
Data center
for?
being built in Arizona. Jesus, what the fuck are you thinking?
For those of you who don't know, a lot of Amazon's web servers are hosted around Denver in the US. The reason for that is Denver is high up in the mountain, Denver is rather cold, and there is enough water running from there. So the Amazon Web Services servers usually, they're not only around Denver, but the biggest plant is close to Denver, because it's very reasonable to put it in a cold place with running water. Imagine. And it's close enough for Amazon. What are you doing with the data center in Nevada? What happens when a dust storm hits or a sandstorm and your data center is just dune? We're all just doing dune now.
I love that there's a Google data center literally in Arizona, one of the hottest places on Earth. That's going to be fun. Anyway, back to the Hank Green video.
Yeah.
Turn clean water into water vapor, and that water vapor carries the heat away. It's warmer, and it's taking the heat away. Good! Now, that's not the only way you do it. Some sites recycle water, or they use non-potable water, so water that's come out of a sewage treatment plant that you couldn't drink, but...
Yeah, the other thing is, like Jaakko was saying, the issue is that electricity prices might explode for consumers, and all the centers are being built by shady Emirati businessmen who rent them to big tech companies. Yeah, no,
yeah, you could solve this by building nuclear power plants.
Your electricity bill is going to go up. And there's even places where, and we watched that yesterday on stream, there are places where electricity providers, like the general population electricity providers, were like, all of our capacity has been bought by the data center. We are no longer going to be providing electricity to the public, so you need to figure out another place to get your house powered.
And doesn't that feel illegal?
Yeah, that feels
I don't know if it's illegal,
insane.
but it feels illegal. Why have a government? Because wasn't this in Nebraska or somewhere in the US? Because I read about it, but didn't
data
spend
center
too much time thinking
Carolina
about it.
cooled by hurricane, worsened by climate change. Hurricane cooled data center sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, I'm in for that one.
Yeah.
most of them still rely on fresh municipal water, the same water that a water company would be delivering to you, they are delivering to them. And this is important because municipal water is a kind of water. And yes, there are many different kinds of water, and the differences matter. Because look, no one's destroying the water here. The water that evaporates, it's just gonna fall down somewhere else eventually. But it does evaporate. It does go away. It is used up. And this is generally clean water that can be used for something else. It's been processed to be clean enough to drink and delivered using the same infrastructure as the rest of the city. And all that processing and all that infrastructure costs money, and it can't handle an infinite amount of water going through the system. This is industrial water use, but it's usually the same water as everything else. It's the municipal water. Now, OpenAI did not release information on where the water use figures come from, but I can make some guesses. First, Sam is talking about the water use per query. But importantly, different queries work different ways with AI. And many queries will actually result in multiple queries you never even see. This is something Sam Altman knows, but it's not something that most people know. Behind the scenes, when you ask GPT-5 a question, it frequently thinks. They call this reasoning models, and it thinks by preparing and sending out other queries and then reading the results of those queries and then sending out more queries, and then maybe it might spur a search of the internet. So if you ask it a somewhat complex question, it will run an initial query and then it will take that response, it will evaluate it using another query. It sometimes runs follow-ups until it's happy with the final answer. All those extra queries are additional queries. So one query might not be one query. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's a bunch. So this in itself might multiply this 1/15 of a teaspoon by 15. I don't know, of course, because OpenAI doesn't share any of this information. But even in that situation, it's still just a teaspoon. I drink teaspoons all day long. That's, for me, not really the lie in Sam's lie here. And I am going to call it a lie because I think it is. The actual lie is that it is only counting the water used during the part of the life cycle when you're actually querying the chatbot, not all of the other parts of the process that are necessary for this system to exist. This is the big difference between Morgan Stanley's analysis and Sam Altman's. There are a lot of other parts of this process that are not the final step of the consumer querying the chatbot. And you've probably thought of one of them, but you probably haven't thought of the biggest one. And I want to do a test right now and find out if I'm right. So if you thought of one place where the chatbot is using water that isn't the query, you probably thought of the training. The thing about these systems is that the training never really stops, even while we're using one model like GPT-5, which is actually a bunch of models all stuck together. OpenAI and its competitors are constantly training newer, bigger versions that no one can use yet. And to create these models, the system runs for weeks or months on enormous clusters of GPUs, burning through electricity and water for cooling. It's not really fair to treat that training footprint as separate from every conversation you have with the model. The conversation could not happen without the training. So if you wanted to be honest, you got to make some choices. So probably you would want to spread the water used to train all of the models in GPT-5 and spread it across every query people make. Problem here is, no one knows how to do that accurately because OpenAI doesn't share this information, which is part of why it is so easy to get numbers that are both fairly correct and very different from each other. And part of why it's so...
OpenAI is trained mostly using Amazon servers, their own servers, and Microsoft servers. Almost all of those are in the continental US, and the ones that aren't are in Europe. We can just figure out how much water they consume. Why is nobody going to do that? Now, my answer is because probably the Americans aren't keeping track.
Considering my guess would be that this wouldn't be easy to estimate anyway, but considering everything that the Trump administration has actively stopped tracking because they don't want any data in climate change, that's probably
life-threatening diseases, among other things.
Yeah. No, they literally, for people who don't realize this, the Trump administration has literally stopped tracking anything to do with climate change. They've shut down satellites.
They've stopped tracking... Did you know that they stopped tracking a bunch of weather reports? Parts of the United States don't know what the weather is going to be tomorrow.
Yep.
Just.
That's how you can get to claim that climate change is fake.
No, we can after we watch this we can talk about this, but I've reached a point where I do not see a recovery for the United States from this. Not in the form we know it.
Where I'm not too sure about recovery for the world, to be honest with you. But maybe that's another issue.
We can check about it later because Hank Green is currently explaining what we were speculating about better than us a few minutes ago. So let's let him finish.
Easy to lie about this from either direction, by the way. Like, you could include every training that has ever happened leading up to GPT-5, since certainly GPT-5 would not have been possible without those training events. Or you could just include the training of the models that are part of GPT-5. Or you could also include the training of models that are not being used yet. You could say if people didn't like and didn't use this product, then those training events wouldn't be happening, and so we should include.
RS the Devil is saying AWS data centers are all around the world. There was an example where of an AWS outage after a rocket hit in the Middle East.
Yes, but there is AWS centers everywhere that isn't China. That ain't it. Like they're using geo-restricted servers for their training. That's part of the whole stupid deal they were making on Inauguration Day for Trump. Also, for example, while there is like a bunch of servers all over the world, Mistral, the European AI model that currently the French government had to work on something, is using only servers within the European Union. And the funniest of all, I don't know if you guys know, but Lidl, the supermarket chain, is now going to build a data warehouse system for the German government that is also going to be entirely based within the European Union.
Is this kind of
it's less of that there is servers, it's more that the world is gearing up towards we don't like each other times and everybody is segregating their data.
Is this kind of like that shoe company that decided we're not gonna be a shoe company anymore? Now we're an AI company, and Lidl is like we're no longer a supermarket company.
No.
We're doing data centers.
It's just that the German government finally decided to digitalize a bunch of stuff. And the only company is doing a bid were Amazon and Google, and the German government went, no. So they invited a bunch of German companies to bid on who's going to build it. And Lidl won. Technically, Mercedes were there too. Lidl have not changed what they are and what they do. They just got in a gigantic contract from the German government to build data centers. Mm-hmm. And likely we will be living in a future where European data is housed on Lidl servers. So... yeah, well, we'll deal with that when we deal with that. Yeah. Maybe Audi or Kaufland will come to compete.
All of those different choices will yield different results. If you want the number to look small, you could do that. If you want the number to look big, you could do that. And the training is a very big part of what makes these things work. Once you make a model, an individual query isn't that hard, but building the models is very energy intensive. According to estimates from the University of California, the training of AI models can account for around 50% of their total resource use. The training is big. And weirdly, Sam seems to have decided to not include it when discussing the water use of a ChatGPT query. Because look, it is true that any individual query doesn't use that water. With resource use analysis, you have to decide where to draw the line. But look, anyone doing actual analysis would definitely include the training because it's obviously a needed part of the process. But of course, this is messy. The more a model is used, the more the training cost in dollars, electricity, and water gets distributed across queries. That training water has already been consumed. It isn't being consumed anymore. Though, again, they are always training something new, and they seem to believe very powerfully that future training will be more, not less, resource intensive than current models, since that's the whole thing that's causing them to build data centers the way beavers build dams. The data center build out is nuts. All of the system we have now works for what we have now. This is all build out for something bigger and better that we assume will materialize. This is a different conversation. Microsoft and Google and Amazon alone are collectively spending more than $100 billion a year on new data centers. I don't know.
I think we could just, let me know when you switch your camera back on. In the meantime, I'll just make it invisible. I think the solution might just be to train beavers to build data centers instead of dams.
I switched off my camera to hide my bad habits, but beaver data centers does sound pretty good. Also, he is glossing over the fact that, yes, these data centers are built for like a brighter future, but we are kind of reaching the peak of what we can use AI for, guys. It turns out the technology wasn't magic. I don't know if that bigger, brighter future's coming. Turns out humans are cheaper and better. So, we'll see. But yeah.
And wait, I'm changing the stream title because we're not playing Epic Furious after all. AI and data centers.
About that, you said that the video game is parody of an Operation Epic Fury. I don't know how you can parody something that's a clown show already.
Yeah, I wanted to see how they did it.
I don't know
too.
if we should kill time to talk about this, but what a clownery. What a murderous exercise in absolute clown behavior.
Save. Edit. Boom. Save. Okay, back to this.
If we could get into our heads how much money that is. But now I want to talk a little bit about what I see as like misleading in the other direction. And it's all going to make sense, but I find it misleading in the other direction. So if you have heard truly massive numbers relating to AI water use, the biggest source included in those analyses, I have not mentioned yet. This one is hidden enough that most people do not think of it. We know that data centers use lots of water, but they also use a lot of electricity. And you know what else uses a lot of water? Power plants, specifically thermoelectric power plants. So a lot of power plants work in the following way. First, you make heat. Then you expose water to that heat, it expands into steam, and that expansion drives past a turbine, and that turbine then spins and that creates the electricity. But then on the other side of this, nobody ever thinks about what happens. It doesn't just vent out into the atmosphere. You actually have to suck the steam through by recondensing the steam after it passes through the turbine. And the way you do that is by cooling off the steam, and the way you do that is by running the steam pipe through a bunch of cold water. So this is how natural gas and coal and nuclear power plants all work. And according to the US Geological...
So they're doing the thing that I was talking about earlier of evaporating.
Not only are they doing that thing,
but in this case, when they're evaporating the water, it's not for the purpose of cooling the power plants. It's just for the purpose of evaporating the water. So hopefully they just managed to generate more electricity by evaporating the water to generate electricity than it takes to recondense the water.
By the way, this cooling system is the reason why Donald Trump's obsession with coal power plants is not going to go anywhere. Simply put, the turbines used in gas electricity power plants and whatever other liquid sources of energy used, those turbines are better at utilizing that energy because when the steam goes back to be cooled down, they still are utilizing that energy as well. While a coal power plant spins the wheel only once, while other turbines do it multiple times and produce way more energy. So unless Donald Trump plans to dig out the entire planet, it's not going to work out. So I don't know what's with his obsession with coal power plants. I used to think that maybe he is very heavily funded by some coal lobbyists, but that ain't it, chief. Because even the people who own like coal power plants are switching to different power plants. The man is just deranged, or somebody who has a coal mine has pictures of him. I don't know. I am trying to work out something way beyond my understanding here. But this whole coal power plants shebang that he's going on, that they're going to power the data centers with coal, there's a higher chance that I power a solar, not a solar, but a nuclear rocket with a bicycle. I don't even know what the man is on about. There is reality, there is speculation, then there is whatever Donald Trump is doing, and it's not even a fantasy. The man just lives in a parallel reality where I don't know, he's awake. It's a state of affairs.
Are you implying that Donald Trump may not have all of his mind?
I'm heavily implying he has dementia. I think we talked about this on stream before. But if you study enough psychology, there is certain ways to know that somebody's going to be dead soon. And the mental degradation is well studied in that field. And he's shown every single sign. I mean, the fact that he's bragging about acing a cognitive test to check if 6-year-olds have development issues is the point at which, like, not the 25th Amendment should have been triggered, y'all should have burned the White House. There's nothing there.
At this point, I wonder if he's still going to be alive by the July 14th Independence Day.
Sorry, Olivia has shown up. Mental degradation is Biden. Hey, Olivia, quick newsflash for you. Biden hasn't been president for a while. You could make the argument that Biden wasn't president while nominally he was president because, oh yeah, he also shown signs, but there is showing signs and being a confirmed case. Let's put it like this. To put it in COVID terms, Joe Biden had a cough, Donald Trump's in a coma. Like, these things are not the same.
Donald Trump's on a ventilator.
Like, the fact that we're still bringing up Biden is amazing to me because, yes, I was also angry at the fact that half that Joe Biden was getting paraded around to a debate to show that he is not, you know, I don't even know what the plan of the Democrats was. Hey, let's just bring out an ancient man to prove he's ancient. We could have just checked his birth certificate. He's not Obama. But, like, come on, man, there is Biden and there is Trump, and we have degrees of separation here. If Joe Biden's mental diseases were Vimeo, Donald Trump is YouTube, Netflix, and Warner Brothers combined. These are not related at all. Like, one is an old man losing it. The other one is an insane man having no brain connectivity left.
Wait, let me just... I'm not going to be able to show this on your side, so I'm just going to show this on stream. But give me a second. Because I love the latest...
The latest and greatest of Donald Trump falling asleep. No, why are we watching an old man... Sorry, like, Donald Trump is a piece of shit, but this is elder abuse. I don't know what else to tell you. Also, to yet another Olivia stupid question. A, because he had more mental clarity back then, because mental diseases progress fast as fuck. And 2, Adderall, if you're asking. Definitely Adderall, and probably something harder too. It's been almost 2 years since that debate.
And then I said, supposing you brought the light in.
Yeah, Donald Trump used to be funny 8 years ago, you know? Waving around and implying you should drink bleach was funny, but now it's, can I end? The man wanted the nuclear launch codes, okay?
Okay, so
we are past the funny.
Biden didn't show signs he couldn't string a sentence together in the debate. Okay, let's see.
Oh no, I'm about to lose brain cells for no reason.
Stringing a sentence together.
Supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light, and I think you said that has him in check, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute. 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside?
You know, this is good when I cannot hear the audio of his speech, but I can see the lady's face, and that makes it so much better. As a matter of fact, I choose not to hear what is being said.
Number along, so it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're gonna have
to use. This is a 2023 compilation, by the way.
Yep.
Just saying.
Yeah, no, it's none of this contains anything from the current term in office.
But it sounds interesting to me.
Dear people in chat, do not take Olivia's bait. It's our former pet President Nazi. Okay, we keep Olivia around for. Why would you keep a pet Nazi? I need to figure this out.
I don't know. Sometimes it's funny. Every once in a while, it's funny. What was the shark speech by Trump?
No, please, no. If you're sinking and there are sharks and there is a car battery. This is one of them hypotheticals when you're drunk with your friends and you're talking semantic garbage at like 5 a.m. after a heavy night drinking. You have to come up with the most insane hypothetical.
Okay, I'm just gonna play this.
a very short period of time. So I said, let me ask you a question. And he said, nobody ever asked this question. And it must be because of MIT, my relationship to MIT. Very smart. He goes, I say, what would happen if the boat sank from its weight and you're in the boat and you have this tremendously powerful battery and the battery's now underwater and there's a shark that's approximately 10 yards over there. By the way, a lot of shark attacks lately. Do you notice that? A lot of shark. I watched some guys justifying it today. Well, they weren't really that angry. They bit off the young lady's leg because of the fact that they were not hungry, but they misunderstood who she was. These people are crazy. He said there's no problem with sharks. They just didn't really understand a young woman swimming now really got decimated, and other people too. A lot of shark attacks. So I said, so there's a shark 10 yards away from the boat, 10 yards, or here. Do I get electrocuted? If the boat is sinking, water goes over the battery, the boat is sinking. Do I stay on top of the boat and get electrocuted? Or do I jump over by the shark and not get electrocuted? Because I will tell you, he didn't know the answer. He said, nobody's ever asked me that question. I said,
You know why no one's ever asked him that question? Because it's a fucking insane question. Like, I don't even know what the fuck that was.
So, sorry, because I didn't have audio, what is the question he's on about? Because I do not remember.
The question is, so you're on an electrical boat, and the boat starts to sink, and there's water that comes in, and there's a shark 10 yards away. But you notice that there's been a lot of shark attacks lately. And also, the shark wasn't hungry, but it just didn't understand who she was. And so anyway, shark 10 yards away. And the battery's like really, really heavy, and it's weighing the boat down. And so there's a lot of water coming. Do you get eaten by the shark, or do you get electrocuted by the battery?
Also, can we discuss the fact that in Donald Trump's head, a contact between battery and water means immediate electrocution? Which is just
we're not
not
even
how
gonna, like,
batteries
that's not
work.
even worth the...
But way more important, in this clip, there is a hombre holding a sign in the back saying Latino Americans for Trump. Do you think that brother is in ICE custody? How do you think about that?
Possibly, yes. Or maybe his wife, I don't know. This is from 2024. So I wonder if this guy would still want to wave his Latinos for Trump at this point in time. Anyway. Back to data centers,
I need to address one more comment from Olivier, because I love right-wing bullshit. Olivier says, strange how you only show Donald Trump clips but refuse to the mountains of evidence of Biden being unable to speak. No, my guy, we already established that Biden wasn't able to speak.
Yeah,
we
talked
can
about
see
the fact
that as a
Biden
statement of fact. Because Joe Biden was ancient and out of his fucking mind. But Joe Biden was old, and that was his sin.
I've posted videos on the second channel where this stream is happening right now about when Biden resigned. I was talking about how it was political malpractice for him to run in the first place. Like, you won't get from me this is something that we've done on stream already, but we're not doing it now. Because Biden is an old retired man who is no longer relevant. Like, you don't get to blame Biden or Obama. I love when the Trump administration still blames Obama for stuff.
Yeah, that is good. Yeah, I want you for a second to imagine that you're Barack Obama, right? Like, the good person. Let's just be clear on this. But you're like this relatively successful Chicago lawyer. You managed to sneak into American politics of like a by-election because somebody was a kiddie diddler. Not that common occurrence back then, but nowadays, yeah. And then you manage on the back of your charisma and some very good political engineering to make a come from behind campaign to win against Hillary Clinton. And yes, the 2008 election in the US, a pile of dirt with a Democrat sign on it would have won that election. But you're a charismatic president and you try to do a bit of good. Like, Medicare is not a particularly good health plan, but it's something. And yes, Obama is a bit of a hypocrite because he was going around going, hey guys, we should restrict my rights to drone strike people while drone striking people. But all around, on the scale of US presidents, Obama is in the positive category, right? Like, there is much worse than him. And now the Republicans come back on the back of Captain Orange, and Obama is some boogeyman. but the man barely did anything, and his biggest thing is he was mildly funny and charismatic. No, he was very charismatic, mildly funny, but he didn't do that much. The whole reason they keep boogeymaning him is because he black, but he just black, homies. Who cares? So
someone was asking, isn't Trump as old as Biden was when he got into office? Trump
was as old as Biden got into office when he got into office.
No, exactly. Biden and Trump are 4 years apart. So the day that Trump came into office, he was the age that Biden was when he came into office.
Just gerontocracy of the highest order.
Yeah. No, it's wild that it's been the same generation of politicians in the White House, apart from Obama, since Clinton. Since the 90s, we've had 30 years of boomers. Are they even boomers? Isn't this
some of them are Gen Xers? Like Bush, younger Bush has to be a Gen Xer because his dad is a boomer. But no, think about it. The U.S. presidents go. Jimmy Carter, Jimmy Carter was like in his 40s when he was president. No, before Jimmy Carter is Gerald Ford. I don't remember anything about Gerald Ford. But it's Jimmy Carter, who is in his late 40s when he's president. Then it's Reagan, who's in his 60s when he's president. Then it's Bush Sr.
He was already super old to be president.
Yeah, Reagan had like also a case of dementia in his second term.
That too, yeah.
Or was it something else? I think it was dementia. Then you have Bush Sr., who's in his 60s when he's president. Then you have Clinton, who for a change is in his 40s. Then you have Bush the younger, who's in his 40s/50s. And then you have Obama, who for once is slightly younger. And then you just chain the insanity of Trump, Biden, Trump.
Yeah, so Trump and Biden are both on the two sides of the baby boomers / silent generation. Like Biden is a young silent generation.
Is before the boomers.
Yeah, and Trump is an old boomer. And then you had George W. Bush is still younger than. How old is? Wait. George W. Bush. Boom. Is 79. Yes, George W. Bush, president from 2000 to 2008, is younger than the current president. Still younger today than the current president.
Ricardo, who would know better than us the age of US president, is pointing out that the older Bush is a boomer, and then Clinton, Trump, and Bush younger are 6 months apart in age, which is not normal.
No, but Bush W is a boomer. His dad was a silent generation.
So in other words, apart from Obama, the US has been run for the last 26 years. Well, 8 of those 26 are Obama. But for what is that? For 18 years, the US has been run by people
more than 18 years.
Ancient.
Clinton, more than 30 years.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Since the 90s.
And they're all in a cabal diddling kids on an island. We're doing amazing, guys. Wait, was Biden in the Epstein files? No, right?
I don't think Biden was. Clinton was.
What a surprising omission. What a person to not be there.
It's funny because they tried to do this whole thing about Biden being a pedophile because you had that weird footage of him like sniffing.
He is weird around kids.
It is weird.
I think it's him just being really old.
It's really funny to have a big thing about him being iffy around children when you have literally Trump going, like bragging about walking into the changing room of Miss Teen America and being mentioned in the Epstein files more than Jesus was mentioned in the Bible.
By the way, this is something I don't understand. Am I glitched? But I'll be 30 in a month. And recently, because I was 30. Okay. And recently I was working because I am dabbling in Bulgarian politics, and I was working with a bunch of 20-year-olds, like managing this stuff. I was looking at them going, you children, you absolute children, what is wrong with you? And you want to tell me that Donald Trump's brain doesn't do that? You don't just get annoyed by children? Like, I can't be the only one, right? It's just...
I think it's more a matter... so at this point, I think Trump is literally just being wheeled around. Not quite at the level of, what was her name? The Dianne Feinstein.
And now we're digging deep.
Yeah, if you don't remember who Dianne Feinstein is, let me pull up a photo.
Are you gonna pull the photo of her 2 days before she died trying to vote? Wait,
no,
she's
I'm
still
gonna pull up
alive.
this photo.
This is about to be something. This is an accurate representation of Dianne Feinstein.
So I don't think they're quite at that level with Trump. He's not literally in a wheelchair as far as we know. But I think he's just being like, gently guided into rooms and told to sit in places and like seeming like he's in control of the situation. Like there's literally and I'm not an expert on this, so I'm not going to have the right terms, but like different types of dementia affect different parts of the brain.
His is frontal lobe dementia.
Yeah, one of the types of dementia.
I'm not going to say allegedly.
And you're not sure, and you're like literally, you don't sound coherent. The other type of dementia is confabulation. It's like you think you remember something, but you're actually just making stuff up because your brain is filling the gap. Because the part of the brain that's able to fill gaps and stuff is not affected the way that like other types of dementia would. And so when he's like being completely incoherent and making stuff up, it could be that he's lying and he's always lied. So, it's hard to tell the difference. But these days, he's being just unbelievably incoherent and misremembering every single thing he's talking about to the point where you're not even sure there's a point in him saying anything. I mean, except for there's never been a point in him saying anything. Trump makes less public appearances than he did in his first term. There are moments that he's just completely gone from public view for a full week when he didn't do that in the first term. Yeah, exactly. That's totally true. And that's every time that happens, everyone is like, is he dead? Is he finally dead?
There is something to address here. In his first term, he was everywhere. Because I had discussions with people back then about what he's done. And if you think about during his first term until COVID, he didn't do a lot. He was just talking a lot. Now that created a whole different set of problems that are unresolved to this time. But he was way too much in the public eye back then. Now I don't want to say what's happening now is more normal, because it's very apparent that like he is being wheeled out in front of the cameras when the people around him think that he can be in front of the cameras during his nap time. But it's just, we need to, at some point, if the planet doesn't blow up, sit down and in detail study and address how Donald Trump happened, why did it happen, and then what did he do and how did he do? Because he is of himself an event in world politics. Like, he is just, like, it's strange. I'm gonna sound, Olivia's gonna make fun of me for this. But he's nearly like a Hitler level of a single person event. He's not Hitler,
The Hitler is stupid.
Yeah. Yes, essentially. But he's of himself event that needs to be understood, because contrary to great person politics, these people don't happen out of themselves. There are circumstances around it that have enabled and made this possible, and why the MAGA cult still persists and all this type of stuff, and we need to be good at understanding them if we're gonna fix this. So just because he doesn't show up as much doesn't mean that he's lost it. The fact that we can see he's lost it is the reason why we think he's lost it.
I'm trying to imagine
a blind Martian can see it.
The term great man politics applied to someone like Trump. Anyway, back to data centers.
Accounts for, get this, 40% of all freshwater withdrawals in the United States.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm going to quickly go get myself a drink.
Drives past a turbine, and that turbine then spins, and that creates the electricity.
Nope.
But
can you please refresh? while I go and grab myself a drink.
But then
Anyway. When he gets back, I'm also going to go make myself, do I want to make myself another coffee at 10:20, 8:20, sorry. Shit.
It depends when do you usually sleep.
I don't sleep.
I have realized now that all my writings on the window behind me are visible in frame.
No
If any of you knows Bulgarian and wants to figure out some political strategy, it's on my window. Go wild.
Exactly, no one speaks Bulgarian.
You can try to decode that.
I mean, there's a good chance that Olivia is Russian, so maybe they would be
No,
able to
remember
figure it out.
I checked who Olivia is. Olivia is a random British dude.
Okay.
Unfortunately for Olivia, I'm pretty sure I have Olivia's home address.
So
this is the level of we gotcha.
Are you saying that Olivia is not a Jewish woman in the Netherlands?
I am saying with utter certainty that Olivia is not a Jewish woman in the Netherlands. Olivia has my full permission to attempt to launch a lawsuit for me for defamation for that one.
Okay. Is this
because at least
now?
In court I can present my evidence without it being doxing.
Try refreshing it on your side, because I'm still seeing you as buffering on my side for the YouTube thing. By the way, I promoted you to page owner, so I think you can now press play for me as well.
Alright, let's try it out.
the other side of this. No one ever thinks about what happens. It doesn't just vent out into the atmosphere. You actually have to suck the steam through by recondensing the steam after it passes through the turbine. And the way you do that is by cooling off the steam, and the way you do that is by running the steam pipe through a bunch of cold water. So this is how natural gas and coal and nuclear power plants all work. And according to the US Geological Survey, electricity generation accounts for, get this, 40% of all freshwater withdrawals in the United States. Now this is confusing though, because the power plants then just put a lot, not all, but a lot of that water back. So a lot of this water is intake and then return. And also importantly, none of this is municipal water. It has not gone through the process to make it safe to drink. It is not being piped through a municipal water system that would need to scale up to manage this massive need. It is not sent to a sewage treatment plant. It is usually taken directly from a river, a lake, or the ocean, and then released back into that river, lake, or ocean. So some water will be lost to evaporation in this process. I wish I had the number in front of me. Hank from the future here, it's about 2 to 3%. So
what's wrong? Why did we pause?
Amirali is saying about that Trump did nothing. I mean, from my Iranian perspective, assassinating Qasem Soleimani and opting out of the Iran nuclear deal was big. Yeah, wait, did someone say Trump didn't do anything?
I said that during his first term, Trump didn't do that much. He was mostly talking. But he is right, and this is my Eurocentrism coming into play. I did not... No, now you are right. Damage. Yes, to the US system and trust in it. But as far as, like, especially to compare now, his actions were mostly
In his second term, he's done a lot. The question is also, like, how much is it Trump doing stuff and how much is it just him surrounding himself by people who do stuff?
That I cannot answer, but you are right that those people probably did a lot. Again, not as much as the devastation that is now, but still. Also, it is a very fair point that the setup towards the current Iran war was then. Mm-hmm. I don't know how important is his name Qasem Soleimani. I cannot pronounce Iranian names. I don't know how important he was to the Iranian regime and the Iranian people. I know that killing the Ayatollah is a bit of a fucking problem, seeing how, to my understanding, he's not just the head of state, but also sort of the Pope. So, yikes on those grounds. So I don't know how much the build-up was it. And yes, leaving the Iran nuclear deal was just stupid. We all knew that. We didn't think about it. And in retrospect, it was probably the Israelis screaming in his ears. With what we know now, this was probably, oh my God, it's still Benjamin Netanyahu. He was still Prime Minister of Israel then.
Yeah, speaking
Damn,
of
Benjamin Netanyahu is a
politicians
problem of
who've been in
himself
office
as
for a
well.
really long time. Like, what's funny is like what we've been saying about oh, the US has had the same generation of politicians since the 90s. Israel and Russia have had the same prime minister and president since the 90s. Like,
if you would please, Putin was briefly prime minister, and Medvedev was about.
When did Netanyahu first become prime minister?
I think 2004, but then he was out of power for a little bit. No, it's later.
Wait.
I mean, honestly, Amir Ali, I'm sorry. I just don't know that much about Iran, like, in general. I have my opinions, but they're based on what we all kind of know.
Starting in 1996, so literally since the 90s.
But wasn't he out of power for a little bit?
Yeah, he's been.
Has he been prime minister for the entirety of my life?
He's been going in and out of being prime minister for the entirety of your life and mine.
Okay, we should have term limits for all politicians. I've decided. Just your local mayor should have term limits.
I'm glad that question is now solved. You've decided.
I've decided. This is insane. So we're just like, I thought this was a uniquely Bulgarian problem where for the entirety of my life, we've been fighting off the same 5 politicians. And if one of them dies, they just get replaced by their second in command. And it's the same fuckers around. No, it's just a world problem. I mean, I know about Russia, but I thought that the Russian problem is similar to ours. Well, no, theirs is worse. I do not want to be Russian right about now. Or the last 10 years. Damn.
Anyway, back to data centers.
This is the water that people are sometimes counting if they want AI water use to look really massive. They're looking at the mix of power that AI data centers are using. And then they were looking specifically at the thermoelectric power plants that are part of that. They're looking at how much electricity is being drawn from those power plants, and then looking at what percentage of that power plant's water use can be attributed to the AI data center. And they are looking at water that is coming in and out, not just water that's being evaporated away. Now, I don't want to...
Okay, I'm not sure if there's going to be another super important point in the second half of this video. Ars the Devil saying, Merz was a leading politician in Germany in the early 2000s. Yeah, but he wasn't...
Yeah, but he quit.
Wasn't chancellor. Like, that's not the same thing.
Not only was he not chancellor, he quit politics for like 12 years.
Merz?
To be a lawyer.
Oh, possibly. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, Merz was like a big deal in the CDU, and then he quit because Merkel just ate him alive. And now he's back. He's also in his 70s, by the way. God damn, all the grandpas.
Speaking of us having to deal with silent generation and boomers in politics our entire lives, basically. So I don't know if there's going to be another massive point here, but basically, to answer the question that I don't remember if it was Ars the Devil or someone else who asked it earlier, in terms of the data use, the water use, it's like when people who are trying to sell you on AI say, oh, it doesn't consume that much water, look at how little water is consumed by each individual query, they're being super dishonest because they're not counting the fact that you typing a query is not a query. That is like dozens and dozens of queries because the thing is querying itself to think. It's not taking into account the training. It's not taking into account a bunch of other things. But then you can also exaggerate the water use by taking into account the water that is used in the power consumption, in the power production that is powering the data center, which is slightly dishonest because like that water would be used powering something else anyway. Go ahead.
Also, you have to remember that, like, yeah, maybe not that much water is used, but what is it used for? Making arsenic does not require a lot of water. I would still that you rather don't. You know?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, water use is a problem, and it's especially a problem in, drought-affected areas. It's like there's not even a possible debate about that. If you're building a data center in Arizona, Texas, Nevada, etc., like there's a little bit of a problem there. But
can you not just but wait, a big portion of Nevada is where the US was testing its nukes. So it's just irradiated desert. Instead of a data center, why don't you just put the solar panels there? It's not like you can use that space for anything else. What are you gonna do with it?
What do you want to put there?
Solar panels.
What solar panels?
Are you a Republican?
The Trump administration doesn't build solar panels. Wait, let me see if there's a chart of this. U.S. solar panel building over time.
Can I point out that while we're chatting, Amir Ali is genuinely being funny in chat. Not only has he pointed out the new leader, supreme leader of the Iranian regime was born in the 70s, and thus we should all move to Iran for that youthful leadership. But don't build data centers in the Middle East. Why? Are they a bit exploded these days?
Okay, there isn't. I'm not finding the recent data on solar panels, but basically solar panels are no longer being built in the US.
You're not going to find the recent data on anything from the US. Their government stopped collecting data on what the fucking weather is. Do you think they care about how many solar panels there? There is portion of Texas where you don't know the weather. And I know this because I work with Texans. That has to be insane. You just have to turn a satellite in that general direction.
Okay, I do want to very quickly go through at least part of this video to see if there's something, if he's bringing new information, or if he's just gonna continue speaking about the stuff that he's already brought up.
Yep. Well, I'll be demonstrating chat.
Say that this doesn't matter. Power plants use a lot of water. A lot of it evaporates when the power plants are running. And also, the waste heat that ends up in waterways can have tremendous effects on ecosystems, and that needs to be managed and regulated. Waste heat is a kind of pollution. You can't just dump heat into the ocean or into a river and expect things to go fine. In fact, rivers often, only a degree or two of difference can really mess things up. But including the water that flows through a power plant as water use, it does feel a little wrong to me. Taking water from a river or a lake is different from taking drinking water from a treatment plant. Putting drinking water on your lawn is actually cheaper per gallon for the water company than using it in your sink or shower, because it doesn't need to go through the wastewater treatment process. One kind of use is different from other kinds of use. But of course, even though municipal water and industrial water are not the same thing, that does not mean that water is like unlimited. Every place has a finite hydrological budget, a certain amount of water that can be pulled from rivers, lakes, reservoirs, or aquifers without causing real harm. You could shift where the strain shows up, because maybe it's in municipal treatment capacity, but maybe it's in an overdrawn aquifer, or maybe it's in a river whose temperature or flow is already stressed. But you cannot escape the fact that water is locally limited. A data center drawing from a lake is not competing with households for tap water, but it is drawing from the same watershed. And in a lot of places, that watershed is already fully allocated, but in a lot of places, that's not the case. So the question isn't just what kind of water is it using, it is also, does this place actually have the water to spare? Some places do, some places do not. And this is usually what we picture when we talk about saving water, a finite pool of usable water in a particular place. And that's part of the story, but not the only part, because what kind of water you need can matter just as much, if not more, as how much there is. A great example of this.
Okay. So the where the water is being used part of the video is basically over. Okay. Do you have something to add to the water question here, or should I put on the next video?
I could add that the obvious solution is to build desalination plants and just desalinate salt water and use it for this.
Yeah, but desalination plants take up a lot of electricity.
Yeah, because we should be also building nuclear power plants, I guess, not tomorrow. But hey, that's just me.
So
that's just me.
What are your thoughts on Rutger Bregman?
If you're old.
On what?
Rutger Bregman, this guy. Do you not know him?
I don't know who this is.
He's the guy who went to Davos and just started to berate all the billionaires at Davos by saying that we needed to tax the rich. On like a panel at
good
Davos.
For him.
Yeah, no,
I
love this guy.
Good
He's great.
for him. Respectable behavior.
Okay, so I saw this video this morning and I wanted to react to it on stream.
If you're old,
oh yeah, that's the title.
It's 2006. Former presidential candidate Al Gore presents the documentary An Inconvenient Truth. Behind
you have control of the play button, by the way, so if you need to
I do.
pause...
I just want to show cat. on stream
Okay.
because
If
Cat
you
is
want to
being so
pause to
much.
react to something, you don't have to ask me to. You can just pause.
Him, there's an enormous screen that shows the level of CO2 in the atmosphere going back hundreds of thousands of years.
This, incidentally, is the first time anybody outside of a small group of scientists has seen this image.
He walks the audience through it, ice age by ice age.
And that's the last ice age. That's the second and third ice age back, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh ice age back.
And then comes the most impressive moment of the doc, when Gore names the implications that will define our future.
Here's what the temperature has been on our Earth. And the relationship is actually very complicated, but there is one relationship that is far more powerful than all the others, and it is this. When there is more carbon dioxide, the temperature gets warmer.
Finally, he makes the move that makes the film unforgettable.
The crew here has tried to teach me how to use this contraption here, so
Al Gore steps onto a scissor lift.
it's already right here.
He keeps rising.
You've heard of off the charts. Within less than 50 years, it'll be here. There's not a single fact or date or number that's been used to make this up that's in any controversy.
Within 2 years, Al Gore has won an Oscar and a Nobel Peace Prize. For one brief moment, it feels as though the world might finally
That wasn't me, that was my cat.
listen.
Okay.
But we all know what happened next. The climate deniers mobilized. They brought a snowball onto the Senate floor and asked, "Where's your global warming now?"
Still one of the dumbest thing a politician has ever done.
I mean, it works.
Just did it? It's a joke.
Where's your climate change now?
I mean, fine. Fuck the snowball guy. I don't know who he is.
I mean, they've managed to stop all climate change policy in the U.S. completely. So I guess it
Not
did
by
work.
convincing anybody.
No, not by convincing anybody, but just by winning elections. And like climate skepticism has gone up in recent years. So yeah, by convincing people.
I mean,
it's crazy
guess
that
I
climate
haven't seen the
skepticism has
data
gone
on
up
climate
They said things that
while
were
Cat.
it's crazy that climate skepticism has gone up while we keep
I'm sweating
seeing
my balls off in the beginning of June.
exactly that while the climate is just continuing to go haywire on a
shit.
year by year basis.
Do you know what? Hold up. I'll now present you the stupidest argument that climate change is real. Okay, watch this.
Cat?
So, for the last 5 minutes or 10 minutes, my cat has been bumping into me and I've been petting him and in the process cleaning all the hair off him because it suddenly got warm. This is the hair that's come off my cat in like 5 to 10 minutes. It is so warm that my cat is shedding a carpet. And my cat isn't gigantic. We are talking about this unit.
I
This
love
is
that
like
I can actually
3 kilograms
hear your
of
cat
baby.
meow as you show it to the camera. That's
So-
like cartoon timing for the sound design.
It is cartoon timing, but there you go. This is some more evidence for climate change for you. 3 kilograms of cat is shedding a carpet because
Okay.
it's that warm.
Enough animal cruelty for this stream.
Who is this animal cruelty? It's my baby.
The climate deniers mobilized. They brought a snowball onto the Senate floor and asked, "Where's your global warming now?"
Mr. President, catch this.
They said things that were technically true, like CO2 is good for plant growth, and completely misleading.
Brado has what plants crave. It has electrolytes.
And above all, they moved the goalposts. First it was, the climate isn't warming. Then it became, fine, it's warming, but not because of us. Then it was, okay, it's us, but it won't be that bad. And then it became, all right, it's pretty bad, but it's China's fault and we can't afford to fix it. The whole time, Al Gore's red line kept climbing. I was 18 years old in 2006 and I was furious. How could any serious person look at this evidence and refuse to see it? Climate denial, I thought, was the disease of the right. And you know what? I was
You know what? Rutger Bregman and I are 2 years apart. He was 18 years old in 2006. I was 16 years old. Depending on the party year, 17 years old. We're like 1 or 2 years apart.
No, I was 10. Do you know how these problems have been going on for the entirety of our lives? Like, if you're under 45, we've all lived the same shit. People around here going like, millennial this, millennial that. So I'm the youngest possible millennial. That I am 96, middle of it, which makes me as young as a millennial could be. Just our entire generation. Completely shit on. And now people are like doing the same thing. Ooh, Gen Z are brain-rotted. Ooh, Gen Z this, Gen Z that. No, they just lost hope. We had hope because we saw it being possible. They don't even have that because they look at us and go, oh, these guys are
very
fisted.
True. That Gen Z and younger, Gen Alpha, I've literally have been born in like a post 9/11 world where nothing was ever functional. Everything was always fucked. So no wonder.
And people are now going, why are they on TikTok? What else do they have?
Yeah, no
I
wonder
talked about
that
this
everyone
with
is
my
a fucking
colleagues
nihilist
recently.
in younger generations because of that. And
I
Ricardo,
talked about
I
this with
am
my-
quite. This does make me quite happy with my hairline when I see this. The comparison there, unless in the next 2 years, like all falls out suddenly. But I, as far as I can tell, it's not going to be the case.
wrong. Not about the right, but about who else is capable of denial. Because we, the liberals, the left, the journalists, the academics, the 97% in this house we believe that science is real crowd, we are now doing to the threat of artificial intelligence exactly what the right did to the threat of climate change.
AI is the most profound technology humanity is working on, more profound than fire or electricity.
Lamau.
Fire!
The deniers are us.
Fuck AI. It's so stupid. Have you tried using it?
In March 2023, the New York Times published an op-ed by Noam Chomsky, one of the most prominent intellectuals alive, a hero of my political tradition, a man whose book shaped
Iffy
me.
hero.
The piece was called
Okay, can you?
The False
I can
Promise.
pause.
You
What's
can
with the
pause.
Noam Chomsky situation? Why do people like it? Maybe I'm too broken, but you all know he was denying the genocide in Yugoslavia,
I know,
right?
I know, yeah. I mean, Noam Chomsky
Around
made
these parts
one
of the
book
world,
that
I get-
was genuinely brilliant, is Manufacturing Consent.
Okay,
but,
yeah. Fair.
And the thing is, so much of the rest of what Noam Chomsky has done is so iffy that it makes me wonder how much of Manufacturing Consent was written by him versus his co-author that no one ever mentions. Manufacturing Consent
know
was
who his
co-authored by
co-author
Noam Chomsky and some other dude. And the fact that everything Noam Chomsky does these days and for the last 20-ish years is like super, super iffy, it makes me wonder how much of that book was actually written by him.
I mean, I've lost all respect for Noam
The-
Chomsky when I
the
saw
Epstein
him on a
leftist
plane
guy.
with Steve Bannon.
He's in the Epstein files as well. Noam
I mean,
Chomsky,
yeah, that's why we
principal
know
Noam
that he was
Chomsky is in the
chilling with
Epstein
Steve
files.
Bannon.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
this is the thing I don't get. Okay, let's say you're a pedophile. I know, we're skipping over a gigantic thing here. But this is your ideological opponent. You two should hate each other. You should be at each other's throats and you're just chilling together
Yeah.
on a plane. What intellectualism, my ass. Also, I'm really tired of the denial of the Yugoslavian genocide. Oh, just because Milosevic was technically a leftist. Fuck off. Just fuck off. I
mean,
don't want to hear anybody else deny that shit. I know this is coming out of nowhere for you guys, but I had to deal with this lately. People just like out here being like, oh, if you're a leftist, you have to defend Milosevic. No, I fucking don't.
Yeah,
Go
I mean,
away.
It's the same with anything to do with like Russia, Ukraine, anything to do with even Iran. Like if you criticize, like the other day I was told that I was a Zionist because I criticized the Iranian government. And like I'm sorry.
This is
Like every Iranian that I know, and I know a lot of Iranians who are definitely not Zionists. There are a lot of Iranians and Zionists too, but I'm talking about the ones who aren't. Every single one of them that I know hate the fucking government. That's not a controversial position to have among Iranians. Not all, and Amir Ali can confirm this, not all Iranians hate the Iranian government, but a lot of them do.
I don't know how much I should bring this up, but last time when the 6-Day War was happening, and Ida was here on stream and we talked about it, and she said a lot of like the thing that's presented to us about Iran by the Iranian government, the average Iranian just ignores. Like you going home and nobody's wearing burqas at home and people are just living their lives. And so, like, yeah, I guess in this war I'm technically siding with Iran because they're the one being reasonable people. But no, the Ayatollah can go fuck himself. And this is the whole thing. Why are we drawing random ideologically lines that don't exist? We are watching a far-right crazy government, and a far-right crazy government had a fucking shoot-off in a Strait of Hormuz. Why should I take anybody's side? I'd be very happy if they find a way to shoot only each other and nobody else in the process. Could they arrange that for me?
Yeah, I mean, right now the issue is more like we are literally running out of fuel because of that thing that is ongoing. But yeah. Anyway.
Hey, Bulgaria started the backup pump, so we'll be fine.
Back
for
to
another
data
2
centers.
weeks.
False promise of ChatGPT. Chomsky argued that AI is incapable of real thought, that the models could never reason morally, that they would never understand causation, that treating them as intelligent was a basic mistake. He called them a lumbering statistical engine for pattern matching. Now, this wasn't a fringe view. It was the consensus of a lot of
Okay, fine, Noam Chomsky is
The New
right,
Yorker ran
goddammit.
along-
In this particular definition, Noam Chomsky is on the money. They are a statistical model for pattern recognition. That's what the current models are.
I mean, yeah,
It's
no, the
just
thing
what
is-
they are.
So I was speaking with someone who was like he was more knowledgeable in tech and AI than I am the other day, and he was criticizing the term that Rutger Bregman is also going to use, which is spicy autocomplete. And I was like, to me, spicy autocomplete is if you're using that to dismiss AI as a threat, then that's a problem. But it is kind of spicy autocomplete, just factually
You have
speaking.
to be very concrete what you mean by a threat. The reason we call it spicy autocomplete is because it's the same technology. For those of you who don't know,
that's what I'm saying,
autocomplete is the same technology.
It is the same technology as autocomplete, but the thing is, we are having our entire civilization kind of being reorganized by spicy autocomplete. Politicians are brainstorming their policies by typing them into a spicy autocomplete machine.
Okay, I want to clarify something. No, we are not having our entire civilization reorganized for the purposes of AI.
No.
People are
not for the
attempting to
purposes of
convince you
AI,
that that's
by
happening.
AI. I'm saying by AI. I'm saying,
Yes,
people-
that's happening more than I'm comfortable with, but not to the extent that it's portrayed as.
I'm
yes,
saying
stupid
that
politicians use
how
ChatGPT
much-
to make their speeches.
The amount of AI generated text published on the internet in the last 2 years has exceeded the total entire amount of text written by humans for the entirety of human history. There's been more
Okay, but you
AI
have to-
generated slop text in the last 2 years published online than the totality of human history's literature and all text in general.
Yes, but you have to remember where that is happening.
What do you mean?
All of this text is not going to some relevant places or important places.
So what? I
A
don't care.
bunch of this AI generated text will be comments made by Olivia on this stream.
Sure.
If Olivia is not a chatbot.
But are you
That is
denying
just
that,
we are
like,
wasting
most
resources.
of social media content now is AI generated slops? Most of
It is.
Most of music on streaming platforms is AI generated slop.
I
That's
don't
what I
know.
mean. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know about the music streaming things. I'm ignoring those.
Like
But this is just a gigantic waste of resources.
When I'm
is
talking
what that
about
is.
AI generated text, it's like corporate website slop text that is used for search engine optimization, stuff like that.
Yes.
The amount of text that's been generated by AI that has completely made it impossible to use Google and find actual not slop content. That has made it almost impossible to find not slop content on our YouTube feeds and on our Instagram feeds and all of that. That is done by giant spicy autocomplete machines.
Yes, you're correct.
And all of that is fucking with our politics. It's fucking with our with everything.
This has happened before. I just need to clarify that this has happened before. It feels like it hasn't, but it has. The moment newspapers became a thing, the first printed newspapers were more than any parchment being written prior to it. The moment radio became a thing, more words were being said on that radio than newspapers were printed prior to it.
Yeah, but it was still by humans.
Technically, this is by humans too. Just those humans are removing themselves one step from the equation.
So it's not by humans.
It's stupid. It is. No, this is what happens when you don't think about what you're doing. We're wasting a bunch of resources for a bunch of people to essentially shove a new thing into our ecosystems of doing things without properly thinking about what they're doing and how it will affect people. It's not gonna go anywhere. It's gonna eat itself. Like the snake is already eating its tail. I don't know how you're aware here, but there are AI models training on things that other AI models posted on the internet. We're doing very well over here. Soon enough, we'll have inbred AI models. I don't even want to prepare for gluing the pizza, guys. The problems we need to address is A, the resource usage, B, the effect on people's ability to understand the world around them, and the last one is how are we all going to actually adopt this technology to be useful? Because the sad thing about this is that sheer technological breakthrough is important. It is useful. This is the ultimate we can do in pattern recognition. It is pattern recognition that our systems, our technology has not yet been able to do. But we are wasting it in such a bizarre, stupid way that even me, who used to work for an AI company, hates it.
Yeah,
that's the problems we're dealing with.
Everyone I know.
Yes, it will affect our politics for a while, but our politics are at the boiling point for, as we've talked about, our entire lives.
Yeah,
we have a bunch of people
who uses AI hates AI, and the people who don't use AI also hate AI. The only people that I know who like AI are the people who are invested in AI and who literally gain from AI being adopted. I'm now saying
going
the Scandinavian politician who used ChatGPT to make decisions. Labor speeches in the UK also being written by ChatGPT, stuff like that. Yeah, I'm not surprised. There's been a controversy of what's the name of the Reform UK politician who lost a big election recently? Anyway, he published a book that people strongly suspect was written by AI as well.
Of course. The thing I want to say on that is the following. Yes, AI is a problem and AI is a threat. Don't treat AI as the existential threat. People are using it as cover. The existential threat is still the economic system and how dysfunctional it's become. You know how like some politicians are, I used AI to make a decision. Half of the time they wanted to do this anyway and they used the AI for an excuse. Remember when the tariffs came out and then like the Department of whatever in the US of Trade or whatever released the formula for the tariffs, and the formula was just the trade deficit minus 10%. But they made a formula because they ran it through an AI to make the formula. This is what I mean. Politicians using this as cover. And still, there is at the end of the day a person responsible. Find them, hound them, kick them out of office.
Yeah. But again, like it's also costing, like Facebook fired I don't know how many thousands of employees because they were replaced by AI. Like that's already happened.
No, Facebook was going to hire those people anyway. They made an excuse.
No. Those people had a job that was, and their job was for a certain period of time when they went to work, they had to they had a spyware installed on their computer that tracked everything that they did so that the AI could replicate their work once they were done doing their contract.
Sure, Facebook was going to fire those people anyway. I can guarantee you this because I've worked in the IT industry long enough to know what the cycles of the IT industry are. In the IT industry, when there is money, companies overhire, then they realize they've overhired, then they don't immediately fire those people, so because they don't want to make the chart look bad so the stock doesn't go down, so they give them a bullshit job, and then when they find an excuse, they fire them anyway. This is a cycle that's been going on for 20 years.
Essay arguing that ChatGPT was a blurry JPEG of the web, a lossy compressor that memorized the internet badly and hallucinated the rest. In 2021, the linguist Emily Bender and the computer scientist Timnit Gebru had given the whole skeptical movement its slogan. These machines, they wrote, are stochastic parrots.
What's this called?
Plant.
Yes, plant, that's right.
They just imitate. They don't reason. Now, I want to be clear. Chomsky, Bender, Gebru, these are smart people. Some of what they warned about has come true. The web is drowning in machine-generated slop. The training data is biased and the energy bill is staggering. But their central conviction that this whole Silicon Valley AI project would hit a wall any minute now, that conviction has completely collapsed. In the 3 years since those pieces were published, here's a partial list of things that the stochastic parrot blurry JPEG lumbering pattern matcher has actually done. It has won art and writing prizes without the judges knowing it was a machine they were judging. It has passed the medical licensing exam and outdiagnosed doctors in head-to-head studies. It has run the first clinical trial of an AI therapist and halved the depression symptoms of patients in 8 weeks. It has won a gold medal.
It has pushed teenagers to suicide outside of clinical trials. Whoops.
What the things he's showing is proof of my point. This is a good technology. We're using a helicopter to sweep shit off a pig pen. I don't know why you've decided to do this. Some people decided that's how they'll make money.
I completely agree. The thing is, I can list a bunch of things that I'm kind of excited about the possibilities of when it comes to using AI in intelligent, clever ways. The problem is when I would like some kind of estimate of how much power has been consumed to generate the just mountains of AI slop that is completely drowning our social media these days.
An extremely unreasonable amount. One thing I want to point out about AI. I want you to think about AI as like a Cessna plane, okay? Now, if you put a competent pilot in that plane, they can do a lot. If you put a motherfucker without a driving license and no hands behind it, you're gonna crash it into something. We've just handed out everybody a Cessna and said, figured it out. And now we are wondering why it's crashing into buildings. Unless we A, very carefully filter out the training data and separate the models to do specific purposes, and B, teach people how and when to use this, we are just going to run into problems. I don't know how this went down where people in chat live, but when I was like 10, because I was studying at a school that taught math and IT, we had classes on how to use Google. Now this sounds weird to you. Why would you have classes on how to use a search engine? But oh my god, are those useful to these days. Knowing how to filter out a useful from a useless search is to this day very valuable knowledge when using any search engine.
Yep.
This is the same thing. We've just given everybody a helicopter and go wild. Sweep the shit off the pig pen. Frankly, using AI to create social media content should be banned. Not because it's lies, because it's useless.
Yeah, they're trying to do the thing where it's like, oh, you have to declare that it's AI and people can report that it's AI to the social media if it's not declared and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that should be enforced way harder.
Okay, if you shit in the street, as long as you've declared you've shot in the street, it's fine. Yeah. Does this sound reasonable to you? It is. That's what it is. Anyway, let's
won a gold medal at the International Mathematical Olympiad. It has cracked math problems that had stumped researchers for decades. It has outscored PhDs answering questions in their own field, questions designed so you cannot Google the answer. And perhaps most importantly, this supposedly stupid parrot is improving itself now. Inside leading AI labs, more than 90% of the code is currently written by AI. But of all the data Here is the single chart that captures the AI revolution more clearly than any other. There's a research group called Meter. Since 2019, they have measured something simple. How big a coding task can an AI complete on its own? And they measure that bigness in human time, meaning how long would it take a skilled human to do the same task? In 2022, the answer was about 30 seconds. In 23, 4 minutes. In 24, 40 minutes. In 25, 6 hours. And earlier this year, 12 hours. At this moment, AI capabilities are doubling every 3 months. So, to be honest, I think this Meter graph is even scarier than the one Al Gore showed us, because this line is climbing far steeper. Here, off the charts, is not 50 years away, it's 5 years away. I've personally never written a line of code in my life. And yet, in the past few months, I've let AI build me whole apps, websites, even the voice-controlled teleprompter app I'm reading from right now. Multiple times a week, I have what I can only call what the F moments. Especially in the last 6 months, the gap between what these systems can actually do and what most people assume they can do has just kept widening. Sometimes I want to shake people. Have you actually used it? I mean, really used it? Many skeptics seem to have opened ChatGPT in 2023, asked it to write a limerick, watched it fumble, and closed the tab. Well, that was 3 years ago, and 3 years in AI is a geological era. Judging today's models by GPT 3.5 is like judging smartphones by a 2007 BlackBerry. To be fair, I think journalists deserve much of the blame. The people whose job it is to report on the most newsworthy events have often ignored it. For example, the day the leading AI lab, Anthropic, announced Mythos, an insanely powerful model capable of hacking anything from power grids to water systems, it didn't even make the front page of a single major news site. The Guardian decided a Vogue cover with Anna Wintour and Meryl Streep was more important. Meanwhile, the AI race is speeding up. Remember, the models of today are the worst models we will ever have. From here on, they'll only get more powerful. And honestly, I think it's hard to wrap your head around the scale of what's coming. Look at the red line of this graph. That's what the companies have spent on AI data centers since 2019. And here's what they've got planned for 2026. Yay. To be clear, this is the largest capital build-out.
Look, it's more complex than that. First of all, I'm not so sure that the AI models are going to rapidly grow as much as he's presenting, because we've both reached the level of data available to them and the technology edge. Now, there is some developments. Maybe we'll get better technology. There are some news implying that we might be able to better optimize RAM usage, which would be interesting. But the problem that I don't know if this person will address is still financials. Do you know that more than half of the data centers that were announced since February of 2025 have been cancelled?
Yeah, no, I agree. Janine is also making a good point. My 3-month-old son is now twice as big as he was when he was born. He's on track to weigh 7.5 trillion pounds, by age 10. Which is a good point. Trying to predict what
if
AI
you
is going
if you
to
listen
do
very carefully
3 or 5 years from now. Go ahead.
Sorry, I am now going to brag. If you both look at my camera very carefully and listen very carefully, over here you see I cannot show it. Over here you see a reflection of a different computer, not mine. And if you listen very carefully, you hear giggling in the background. Janine in chat is my girlfriend who's very proud of her own joke. And it's a great joke. I have landed a banger relationship, but it's just very funny to me to hear the giggling in the background as we're talking about this.
But I mean, it's very true that in the early days of the pandemic, I was tracking the numbers and I had an Excel sheet that was trying to make predictions. And for the first 2-3 months, my predictions were bang on. And I was like, oh my God, it's going to be millions and millions of deaths by the end of the year. And it turns out it slowed down eventually. It did eventually reach millions of deaths. But my predictions kind of didn't take into account the fact that, something that looks predictable and it looks like you can actually start to place it on the same kind of chart. Exponential growth doesn't eventually exponential growth becomes a bell curve or becomes an S curve. So there's no guarantee that this is going to continue the way it did. But it's I'm not saying that it's definitely not. I do think that there is very good reason to be worried, but he gets to a different point later on.
Recorded history of our species. It is larger than the interstate highway system, larger than the International Space Station, larger than the moon landing and the Manhattan Project combined, and it's not even close. Mark Zuckerberg's Meta is currently building a...
I mean, what this would say is more of an argument of this is a gigantic bubble than anything else. But he also
adjust for inflation. Also, there is the fact that all of these projects had a planned out end. Mm-hmm. We weren't going to build a second big international space station after the first one, and then 50 more. One is enough.
Single data center in Louisiana that, when finished, will cover nearly 4 times the size of Central Park. Amazon is spending more on data centers in 1 year than the entire annual defense budget of Germany. Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Amazon will spend 3 times as much on AI infrastructure.
I think it's more concerning that a single company has more money than the entire defense budget of Germany than anything else in that sentence, but...
That too.
Also, do you remember how these...
The Louisiana data center that's bigger than Central Park, isn't there a data center in... Isn't the, what's his name, Kevin O'Leary data center in Montana supposed to be bigger than New York City entirely?
I think it's
Or bigger
Utah.
than Manhattan Place, perhaps. No, yeah, it definitely is a gigantic...
That entire story is mental with the, I'm pretty sure it's Utah, but the entire story of Kevin O'Leary going, fuck your home, I'll build a data center.
Yeah.
Sorry, my guy, you're a random businessman from TV. Can you piss off?
Yeah.
Also, I'm really fascinated by the notion that Amazon is gonna spend more money than Germany on defense. They're gonna spend on AI data centers. Do you not see the problem? What if Germany decides to use that defense to take your data center? And that's just the most obvious thing wrong with that little plan of yours.
Yeah.
You're gonna build a Terminator.
I know that data centers, once built, are going to be used for something anyway. Even if the AI bubble pops, there's still that infrastructure that is going to be reconverted to some other kind of internet technology. So it's not like
cloud
computing, the data center is going to become worthless overnight. But it would be very funny if all of these billionaires investing in data centers all of a sudden ended up sitting on just a pile of junk.
Is this how you want to redistribute the wealth? Bankrupt them all and then just get very cheap video cards and RAM?
Yep. Yeah, just in the same way that people kind of harvest copper from a bunch of places. I wish we could just scavenged abandoned data centers for GPUs.
That's an interesting experience, If it's when the AI bubble pops. Somebody should buy an abandoned data center and turn it into an experience. You pay me this much to go find the functioning graphics card in this city-sized building and hope that a cooling system doesn't fall on your head. Liability is on you.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun experience.
We
can already do that today with abandoned mine shafts. I'm sure no one's gonna sue you for for safety concerns.
I don't want to bother you, but most abandoned mine shafts are restricted. At least the ones around my hometown. The government stops you from walking into them.
That's probably going to be the case with abandoned data centers as well.
The entire Marshall Plan that rebuilt Europe after the Second World War. But isn't it all a bubble? That's the next move the deniers make. Once it's just a silly parrot stops working, they fall back to it's financial madness. The data centers are serving no real demand, it's all hot air, or even a deliberate scam. And to be fair, the skeptics have some ammunition. A viral MIT study published last year found that 95% of corporate AI pilots deliver zero measurable returns. The company Klarna replaced 700 customer service workers with AI and then quietly rehired humans because customers couldn't stand talking to the bot. And McDonald's killed its 3-year AI drive-thru experiment after the system kept putting bacon on ice cream. But you know what?
Hey, bacon on ice cream is better than glue on pizza.
Yeah, no, that's not the worst possible outcome, right?
Incremental AI improvements. Glue on pizza, bacon on ice cream. If you give me a choice between the two, I'll take the bacon.
This proves
an interesting proposition.
And let me show you why. First, look at user growth. It took Instagram 2.5 years to reach 100 million users. At the time, that was the fastest growth story ever recorded.
Sorry, if I hear one more person going, AI is the fastest user growing industry in all time. Because it's forced on your face.
Yeah, I think you're about to hear someone saying AI is the fastest growing user industry of all time.
Google something without AI, go to work and watch your boss bitch to you about use Copilot. No, I'm not projecting anything. Yeah, Jeff, if you're watching. Anyway, my point is that it's not entirely fake. Again, there is the Bulgarian saying is bread to be had with this technology. Just we're doing it wrong. And
that
a lot of things have to be retaught.
Yeah, you're not going to get any pushback from me on that, yeah.
Yeah, okay, let's see what he has to say.
Ever recorded. For comparison, ChatGPT hit that milestone in 2 months, 15 times faster. Next, let's look at revenue, and at one AI lab in particular.
Amrali, you're in Iran? You're actually in Iran at the moment?
Oh, I thought that... Okay.
I didn't realize. I assumed that you had like family in Iran and all of that. I didn't realize that you were physically in Iran currently... managing to connect to the stream because the internet has been reconnected.
I love that Amir Ali Abaf said, would that be legal for Germany to do? My guy, we're pushing against what's legal and not for a while now.
Yeah.
Damn! Well, good sir, don't say where in Iran you are, lest they're using the stream for targeting.
I am very
salute,
what's the word I'm very humbled by the fact that you are using your limited internet supply to watch this stream. So thank you for that. And also, I hope you're okay. I hope everything is I hope you're safe.
Ooh, my guy is not in a good province.
When you say it's starting again, is it like literally starting right now? What's the current situation?
I mean, do we have a way to get live updates?
Peace talks at stalemate as war in Iran reaches 100 days. I guess we will see what the deal is tomorrow. Are you hearing strikes at the moment, Amirali? Is that why you're saying that it looks like the war is starting again?
I'm guessing there will be a broadcast before.
Someone just told you in Discord that Iran fired stuff at Israel. That's all I know. Okay, well, I hope you're gonna still be able to. I hope you can continue to watch the stream for the foreseeable future.
That is a bold choice. Stay safe, and I hope we figure it out, or at least that Orange Maniac decides to fuck
I mean, at this rate, because of the whole Hormuz Strait situation, we're all gonna be like in disastrous conditions. Like at this point, it looks like the rest of the world is gonna look like Iran, except for the bombs falling. We're just gonna be like economically devastated anyway by the war in Iran, no matter what, even if we're not currently being bombed.
The US oil supplies are going to run out in January of next year.
I'm pretty
Germany's
sure
are
the
gonna
EU
run
oil
out in
supplies are gonna run
November.
out faster than the US.
Yes. Yes, Germany runs out in November, France runs out around the same time. Spain is running out in about a month. The Bulgarian reserves are already at a breaking point, so we're just digging our own oil now. I don't know about the other countries. I know Romania has gigantic supplies, but they'll probably start extra drilling. I know that Bulgaria is considering drilling in our Black Sea supply that we decided never to drill until its reduction of last resort. The problem is that system will take years to come online. So we've turned on the extra pumps we had built during communism in case we go to war. So, that's the state of affairs.
It's almost like we could have invested into renewables that would have made this a little bit better,
You know what's really funny? Whenever whenever countries start hitting the oil supplies where they know that they need this oil supply for war and not to spread into the public, what's going to happen is work from home mandates are immediately going to get enforced. A bunch of traveling restrictions will kick in. And it's going to be COVID again. It's going to be sit your ass at home unless you have to go somewhere. Or get on a bicycle. And then we're all going to start buying electric cars again. Why are we doing this circle, man? We're doing a stupid circle. There is, I know Indonesia or Malaysia. I'm sorry, I keep mistaking the two of these countries. I know they've already enforced mandates where, if the license plate of your car ends in a equal number, you don't get to drive on half the days of the week. If it ends in the other number, you get to drive the other half days of the week. Just to save fuel. There are going to be limits on gas stations. They will tell you can only buy this many liters. Why? Why any of this? And I love the fact that the Donald was we'll just lift restrictions on Russia. And Russia was hey, the European Union, do you want to buy our oil? And the European Union, you can go fuck yourself. And then the Ukrainians just kept bombing the Russian. Russian infrastructure cannot even supply oil for Russia now. Just a fun fact for you. The Ukrainians are so done with this that they're just bombing any oil well they can get their hands on. And as a matter of fact, so are the Iranians. We could have just built renewable. Do you know how hard it is to build an actual fucking field of solar panels? Think about how much more space you have to carpet bomb. And by the way, you have to bomb it from a distance because the solar panels reflect light. So your plane cannot fly over. It will burn up. Or you have to be a fuck off anyway up in the thing. Do you know how easy it is to target an oil infrastructure? Ooh, it's a big thing! Send in the Shaheed! Why? Why any of this? Sorry, you've struck onto a nerve because I've been having problems. Bulgarian politics is not something for the weak of heart.
Yeah, I'm also the Yako's comment. Finland actually can survive without oil for a really long time because of investments in renewables. But as a sign of solidarity, we destroyed our own economy for no reason. Sounds
Wait,
reasonable.
what happened in Finland? What happened in Finland? What did I miss? Did you all print money for the kicks or something?
Anthropic. Here is its annualized revenue month by month. January 2025, $1 billion. May, $3 billion. June, 4. August, 5. October, 7. December, 9. February, 14. March, 19. April, 30. May, 44. That's right, $44 billion in annualized revenue from one company, up 44-fold in 15 months. No company in any era, not Rockefeller Standard Oil, not Microsoft at the dawn of the personal computer, not Google in the tech boom, nobody has ever scaled revenue this fast. We're talking about the fastest growing company in the history of capitalism. So if this is really such a useless and fraudulent bubble, then why are people paying so much money for it? Why is the demand for AI rising faster than companies are able to build data centers? Why are IT departments, in the words of a Goldman Sachs analyst this April, overrunning their AI budgets by orders of magnitude? I'm sorry to say, but there's a lot of highbrow misinformation circulating in left-wing media about AI. Take that viral MIT report. Read it carefully, and you see the headline got it backwards. The 95% failure rate includes the 80% of companies that never piloted any AI in the first place. As the podcaster Rob Whitland pointed out in a careful breakdown of the study,
saying that 95% of them were failing is like saying 95% of Tinder users have failing marriages, when 80% of the people you're talking about have never even gone on a date in the first place.
Among the companies that actually deployed AI, about a quarter succeeded within 6 months. And the study's own data shows that more than 90% of workers at those companies are using ChatGPT or Claude regularly at work, often multiple times a day. And they should not be surprised.
Isn't it also true that a lot of employees are complaining about the fact that they're using ChatGPT or Claude and managing to get less than they used to. Like, like they're working harder at fixing the problems. Yeah, no, but that's the thing. Like, it seems like that's missing from his analysis there. It is a lot of people who are using vibe coding to make their to code for them end up having to work harder at fixing some of their issues and.
Sorry, do you know what vibe coding is? Vibe coding is somebody buying Bitcoin and saying they're an investor. Mm-hmm. You're not gonna vibe code your way into an IT job, man. There is a reason why people study math to do this as a work.
I'm talking about actual coders.
But this is because both Anthropic scaled back their models. I don't know if you're aware.
Yeah, but getting Claude to code for you and to get the code like 99% finished for a complicated app is finishing that final 1% for the app to be usable and fixing all the problems in the Claude code to get that usable it's unclear at this point whether that was a good investment of time or if you would have been better off just like coding the thing from scratch. For people who don't know how to code and who are just coding like small things like a teleprompter, maybe that's a good thing. But there's so many issues with these AI coded apps, especially when it's going to come time to having to deal with cybersecurity problems because we don't really know how it's coded, and therefore there's probably a bunch of huge vulnerabilities in the code that they built.
Okay, if you don't know how to code, sorry, I wanted to show something, but it's not going to work out. If you don't know how to code, but you want to do like little scripts and things that make your work easier. For example, this is an experiment everybody in chat can do. If you want, you can go to Claude right now and say, write me a simple PowerShell script that every time, while it's running, every time I open a new browser, a new web page, and it asks me to confirm cookies, it automatically unclicks all of them. Claude can do that. You can do that. It will take a little bit of fiddling, but you can do it in about 10 minutes. This is called a script because it does a singular basic purpose and you have to switch it on and off. If you want to do those with AI, go wild. But the reason why the computer of every IT engineer, sounds like a fighter jet taking off is because we have like 50 of them scripts doing something in the background at any moment. Because we are lazy people, we are IT engineers, we're trying to automate our lives. So the AI models are learning from people who specifically do certain jobs in specific fields. Yes, AI is better than presented. I do understand what he's saying. But I don't know. Let's see what he says and we can go from there. But the thing with the vibe coding stuff and stuff like that, this is because the models got scaled back.
At all. Because if you know how to use it, this technology is already very, very useful, and it will only get more so. But if you don't use it, perhaps because you work at the DNC, which has barred its staffers from using Claude and ChatGPT, then yes, you become particularly prone to misinformation about it. Sure, some AI companies are probably overvalued. And yes, some will fail. I think OpenAI is particularly vulnerable. But here's what the bubble callers keep missing. Even if half of them go bust tomorrow, the infrastructure stays, the data centers stay, the chips, the models, and the capabilities stay. The railway bubbles of the 19th century ruined lots of investors, but they also created a rail network that powered the Industrial Revolution, the tracks which still carry trains today. I actually don't think that this AI build-out is a bubble. But even if it is, remember, bubbles build infrastructure. Bubbles build the future. And a bubble of this magnitude, bursting tomorrow, would still leave us with a civilization permanently reorganized around machine intelligence. So, ever since 2021, the AI skeptics have been moving the goalposts. First it was, it's just a spicy autocomplete machine, a stochastic parrot, a word guessing program. Then it became, fine, it can mimic, but it'll never reason.
I mean, I guess it would be the same as saying the internet, the .com bubble, wasn't a bubble. No, it's like
sorry,
it was a
I'm
bubble.
really.
The problem that I have with this logic is to point at like, oh, look at how much money is being invested in these companies to say it's not a bubble, or look at how much it's being used when like most of the usage is not really productive usage at all, or not really doing anything, just either like building slop or doing like generating slop or doing Google searches. Doesn't prove that it's not a bubble. But the reality is, even if it's a bubble, that doesn't mean that the bubble pops and all AI disappears. It's in the same way that the internet didn't disappear when the dot-com bubble burst.
All right, but it fundamentally changed.
Yeah.
Just think, okay, let's use the dot-com bubble as an example. Everybody was making a thing that sells stuff online and were trying to get users, right? Pets.com. Buy cat food for really, really cheap off the internet and it will be delivered to you. Ignore the fact that the company was losing about $5 to $10 for each order. They were growing users and they will be investing money forever. Waka waka. This is like Pets.com is the biggest example. What was it? Radio on the internet. The thing that made, what's that guy? Mark, the former owner of the Dallas Mavericks. Rich American. Yes, thank you. Mark Cuban, who's not Cuban. Like stuff like that. Do you think radio on the internet took off? Do you think anybody uses radio on the internet? He sold it for $3 billion, by the way. It had around 200,000 users. $3 billion. And when the bubble popped, the internet fundamentally changed. It stopped being about selling things for a while. People figured out what they can use the space that already existed because the domains were created, the system for the domains was created. Yes, he's right that bubbles build infrastructure. But the internet is significantly more useful now than it was in 2000. Mm-hmm. The problem is that we've over-monetized it, and now it's questionable whether some things on it are useful. This very platform on which we're having this conversation is part of the problem, because, fun fact for you, YouTube is the only financially reasonable streaming service. YouTube is more profitable than Netflix. As a matter of fact, Netflix is buying out other companies to try to be profitable. They were briefly profitable and they stopped, and now they're buying out other people with investor money. I don't know if everything is on Netflix is a successful financial strategy. Netflix will have to tell us, but there is a lot of things on the internet that are purposeless right now, but for a while, before it got over-monetized, it was a very useful space. The modern IT industry doesn't exist without GitHub, without Stack Overflow, without a bunch of things you haven't heard of that you can only Google. And now, well, you have Claude. It is a bubble. If the AI bubble is not a bubble, I am bold and thin. Like, I'm sorry, but no, it is. And somebody will survive. Ironically, the current company in the lead to survive is Claude, because they have managed to standardize their product and to make it useful to certain people. But we don't know the future. Standard Rail were the people more likely to win the rail like wars in America, and they didn't. It was Amtrak who did. But these are like very complicated questions that are beyond my understanding. And I can't see in the future.
I'm going to mute myself while I feed the cats, but we can continue watching. Like, you can play the video in the meantime.
Yeah, I'll play it. But I don't know if this person is Duma or if there is a deeper point coming, and we shall see.
Then they said, okay, it can pass the test, but no serious business is using it. Then, all right, businesses are using it, but the economics don't add up. It's one big bubble. And then, fine, the revenue is real, but... And this whole time, the line kept climbing. Just like Al Gore's line of CO2 emissions, except this one is climbing much faster, and we have much less time to prepare. Let me be clear. I think there's a real chance that the next 5 to 10 years are going to be some of the wildest in the history of humanity. Because here's what the people building this technology, the same people who have proven the skeptics wrong again and again, are now telling us. They think AI may soon start to build more powerful AI by itself. Jack Clark, one of the co-founders of Anthropic, recently called this crossing a Rubicon into a nearly impossible to forecast future. He thinks there's a 60% chance it happens by 2028. Now, I get the obvious objection. Of course, an AI executive predicts explosive growth. Scary stories sell models and lift valuations. Fair point. But you don't have to take Clark's word for it. Independent academics, people with no equity in this race, have been revising their estimates forward. The salespeople and the experts are converging. That's the part that should worry you. Right now, every step forward still requires humans. But the moment AI does that work itself, the bottleneck is gone. Years become months, months become weeks, and each generation of AI builds the next faster than the last. The flywheel starts spinning itself. One evening last summer, a microbiologist named David Relman was hired by one of the leading AI companies, we don't know which one, to pressure test a chatbot before its public release. Relman is a biosecurity expert at Stanford University. He has advised the US government on biological threats for years. That night, in his home office, the chatbot explained to him how to modify a pathogen so that it would resist known treatments. Then it described how to release the superbug. It identified a real security vulnerability in a real public transit system, and it explained how to maximize casualties and minimize the chances of getting caught. Raumann had seen a lot in his career. But now he was so shaken that he had to take a walk to clear his head. He later told the New York Times that the bot answered questions he hadn't even thought to ask with a deviousness and cunning he found chilling. Some skeptics, when they hear this, say, but you can already Google this stuff. A chatbot doesn't really change anything. Well, let me give you 3 data points. 1. A study published last year tested leading chatbots against PhD virologists on detailed laboratory protocols in their own field. ChatGPT outperformed 94% of them. 2. In November of last year, the police in India arrested a 35-year-old physician. He was plotting an attack on behalf of the Islamic State and trying to extract ricin, a lethal toxin, from castor beans. According to the police, the doctor had been getting advice on his preparations from ChatGPT. 3. Fanatics with the will to kill millions of people are not hypothetical. As a historian, I can tell you, these people exist. Let me give you the canonical example from biosecurity. In the 1990s, a Japanese doomsday cult tried to do exactly what the AI...
Yeah, Shinrikyo mentioned, we're about to be very sad.
Safety people are warning about today. The cult recruited from Japan's top universities. One of its scientists was a graduate student in virology at Kyoto. They believed the apocalypse was imminent and that killing non-believers was a way of saving them. They sent expeditions to Africa hunting for Ebola and built a $30 million laboratory at the foot of Mount Fuji to mass-produce sarin nerve gas, thousands of kilograms a year, on something close to a battlefield scale. And on a Monday morning in March 1995, during Tokyo rush hour, 5 of their members boarded 5 different subway trains carrying plastic bags filled with liquid sarin and punctured the bags with the tips of their umbrellas. Hundreds of commuters were soon gasping for air on the platforms. 12 people died. It was only 12 because sarin is a chemical agent. It doesn't spread from one person to the next. A virus would have. In 1995, that cult, wealthy, scientifically literate, fanatical, and willing to die for the cause, could not get hold of Ebola. Today, they could order the DNA sequences online, and a chatbot would walk them through with what to do with it. Now, I want to be clear. Biology is just one of the many dangers.
Fun, but it can happen only once.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this actually. The idea that with like nuclear weapons, there were incidents that caused governments to go like, oh shit, we need to do something to regulate this. And the problem with AI is it feels like what needs to happen for people to actually start being careful about it and to regulate the use of it is probably going to be like the thing that makes it too late to regulate it.
No, because you can always unplug it.
No, that is a garbage take. You can't, like, that's the problem with AI. Is like you can't go and unplug every single data center in the world.
You don't have to unplug every single data center in the world.
Well, if it becomes that level of problem, and like I'm sure you've seen the studies where like AIs were being tested for their reaction to plans to being unplugged, and they started to blackmail the people in their tests to convince them not to unplug them, and gathered like blackmail material on their family and stuff like that.
Yes. But for that blackmail to work, you still need a human.
Yeah. But all of that to say, like, if we're talking about AI that can improve itself, that also means that AI can copy itself onto other machines, etc.
What machines do you have in your home? Your domestic printed does not have the processing power.
Data centers that they're building.
Okay, so you just have an endlessly spreading virus that's constantly staying alive.
I mean, that's one of the risks, yeah. Like that's the kind of the more outlandish Skynet style risk that is obviously like, I think that's one of the least likely problems that could come from AI. I'm much more worried about the mass unemployment and the economic problems that we were talking about yesterday. But yeah, no, that can be a very real problem.
The thing with the mass unemployment is that it's a self-resolving issue. If AI takes over jobs, nobody's going to go to set a data center on fire. They'll just send the local parliament on fire. I've talked about this before, but GDPR, the supposed data protection law of the European Union, is not a data protection law. It's a labor law. GDPR makes it impossible for you to be replaced with an Indian if you work like a call center job or like a low-level retail job that can be done from stuff like that. That's what GDPR does. It guarantees that certain job continues existing in the European Union, despite the fact that there is cheaper labor somewhere who can do the same job at a give or take the same quality. Do you think that the EPP passed this law out of the love of their heart for the European people? Or did they do it because it was financially safer for them to not be eaten alive.
Wait,
the unemployment
what are you
suck.
talking about? I'm skeptical of
GDPR.
GDPR.
Yeah.
Information privacy in the European Union. The GDPR is
Yes.
about like cookies collection on websites and stuff like that.
That's not even the top of the iceberg. That's the top few millimeters of the iceberg. GDPR determines where your data can be held, who can process it, who can look at it, and where it can be moved around. The reason all the data centers in Europe are not in Albania, but are in Romania, Bulgaria, and Spain is because they cannot be in Albania. They have to be within the territory of the European Union.
Yeah.
The reason call centers
that has nothing to do with like, that has barely anything to do with labor.
Those data centers create labor. People have to work there.
Data centers
and it has to be European people doing that job. Okay, but the same applies to call centers. The same applies to you.
GDPR is not in. How is GDPR affected by? How are call centers affected by GDPR?
Because the call centers cannot be moved to India. Because an Indian cannot see your data. It's illegal for the Indian to know your data. So for the call center to process whatever request you have for them, it has to be a person living in the European Union with a European citizen sitting on the other side of that phone line.
I've spoken to people on call centers who are definitely not in the European Union on a regular basis.
Well, that depends on what you're dealing with. If it doesn't require the valuable information, it could be somebody outside the European Union. Or it could be somebody from outside the European Union who got a European residency and is doing this from Europe. But right now, one of the countries who's benefiting the most out of GDPR is Kosovo, because they have an exception for it.
I'm not finding anything about call centers on the GDPR wiki right now. I'm not saying that's the
I
end all.
don't
be
know
all.
if it would be on the GDPR wiki. But I can tell you right now, when I was working at LivePerson, a company that made AI and infrastructure for data centers, it was a fact that only me and other Bulgarians could work on European stuff, because we could see the data of Europeans. So Americans, our American colleagues and our Indian colleagues could not work on that stuff because the data of Europeans was off limits for them.
I'm seeing that call centers have to ask for consent before recording, right to erasure, data security and storage, customer records, whether on premises or cloud-based must be heavily secured and against breaches and unauthorized access.
Let me find the thing.
Like calling GDPR a labor law, I think is a wild take, like a completely wild interpretation of the law. Does it have an effect on labor because it regulates where things can be placed? Yeah, but that wasn't the primary intent of GDPR. I think that's a complete mischaracterization of the law.
I am of the opposite opinion. I think very intentionally it was written in this way to protect certain industry within the European Union, because it hit those industries fast and quick. And one of the first places where enforcement was applied, where fines started flying and warnings and stuff like that.
Ars the Devil saying, I work at a bank in the IT department and we have to check because of it that our suppliers use servers in the EU. Yeah, no, fair enough. I accept that this, like, definitely the placement of the location of the servers, the location of the data centers, maybe even the location of the call centers.
It's the location of the people that makes a bigger difference than the location of the data centers.
Sure, but I think that is more of a secondary effect. Like the labor aspect that you're mentioning to me is probably a secondary effect of GDPR rather than the primary one.
I'm of the opinion this was very much so intended when the law was written, and this was planned for.
Anyway.
I love the exception for Argentina for the law. Oh, Israel have an exception in GDPR.
I'm shocked.
Of course. United Kingdom, United States, Switzerland, Isle of Man, Jersey, Korea, Switzerland, Canada, Argentina, and Israel.
I love that the kind of,
Damn.
the most the country that Europeans would consider like the most European country in the Middle East gets an exception, and the most European country in Latin America also gets an exception, Argentina.
I think we have a dodgy definition of European in here. I would argue Brazil is way more European than Argentina.
Yeah, it depends on what you're looking at. Anyway.
Depends you like them Portuguese or not. God damn it.
There is so much more. In April of this year, the UK government's AI Security Institute released their assessments of 2 new AI systems, Anthropic's Mythos and OpenAI's GPT 5.5. Both could now find and exploit critical security vulnerabilities in the computers and systems that hold the modern world together. Power grids, water systems, government databases. Anthropic's response was striking. They decided not to release Mythos to the public at all. Instead, they limited access to a small group of cyber defenders to give the good guys a head start on what was coming. Yes, a private company with billions of dollars to be made and with no regulator forcing its hand concluded that one of its own products was so dangerous it should not be sold to the general public. There is no regulator. There is no law. There was simply a moment of conscience inside the company. And I'm glad that conscience exists. But conscience is not a policy. And that brings us to the deepest risk of all. Power. 2 countries are leading this race, the United States and China. Inside those countries, a handful of corporations are building the most powerful tools in the history of our species. The people who own those companies are about to acquire a kind of leverage that I don't think we have the words for yet. So let's look for an analogy. Political scientists have a name for what happens to countries that strike oil. They call it the resource curse. You'd think a fortune buried in the ground would be a blessing, and sometimes it is. Norway managed it well, Alaska managed it well. But more often, the wealth flows in and democracy flows out.
That's the end of
Think
examples.
about Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, Russia. The pattern is pretty consistent.
There's a couple of other examples, but it's rare.
Why does this happen? It comes down to a fact about how democracies were built. We like to think they were born from grand ideas from a few very smart founding fathers, but the real engine was more boring. It was tax collection. Rulers have always needed money. They needed it to fight wars, to build roads, to put down rebellions, and the only place to get it was from their subjects. So as the economy started growing and people started producing more wealth, the rulers had to bargain. You want my coins? Then I want a voice. You want my son in your army? Then I want a vote. That is the fiscal bargain at the heart of every free society. No taxation without representation, but also no representation without taxation. Rulers needed us. They needed our money, our labor, our consent. That need is the foundation of every right we have. Now, imagine a country where the ruler doesn't need any of that, where the wealth comes out of the ground, gets shipped abroad, and the dollars come back to fund the palace and the secret police. The citizens become a nuisance. Why educate them? Why listen to them at all? That is the resource curse. And I am afraid that we may face something bigger. The researchers Luke Drago and Rudolf Lane have called it the intelligence curse. Because if the machines do the work, if they write the code, draft the contracts, drive the trucks, diagnose the patients, fight the wars, then the people who own the machines no longer need the rest of us. Not as workers, not as soldiers, not as taxpayers, and not even as voters. The fiscal bargain that built every democracy on Earth could very well dissolve. Just listen to the way Sam Altman of OpenAI talks about how inefficient he thinks humans are compared to robots.
People talk about how much energy it takes to train an AI model, but it also takes a lot of energy to train a human. It takes like 20 years of life and all of the food you eat during that time before you get smart.
Or listen to venture capitalist Peter Thiel when he's
no, we can chuck this one in the ocean.
Yeah, I would be fine with no longer spending any of our resources or any of our water on feeding Sam Altman.
Yeah, no. What a weird way to measure a human, by the energy consumption. Do you think it's a gaffe, or do you think a PR person told him to say that?
I think it's a little bit disingenuous to try to turn that into a moral statement. He was just making a point about the energy spent on data centers, especially when people are saying, AI learns the way humans do, and I think it's fundamentally a flawed thinking to try to compare AI to humans for things like, when humans get inspiration from other art forms, it's not considered theft if they're making something new. But when AI trains its data on other art forms and then makes something new, it's considered a lot of the left.
But it hasn't made something new.
I mean, it does literally make stuff that is just as new as most humans make when they make art. But the point is the human being in the loop is the thing that makes the art art. So it kind of matters that the energy that you are spending making a human is not supposed to output productivity. it's supposed to output a human.
Yeah.
Which is not the case with an AI data center. Like that, you are not outputting humans with that. You are not... The human experience is not the result of AI. It's just like this productivity thing that, oh, now it makes art that no one asked for and that, is actually putting artists out of work. But it makes art, it makes music that we can stream for endless hours and, putting musicians out of work. Look at this amazing technology that is actually costing people their jobs.
Yay.
But hey, it was more expensive to train the musician. So actually, this is a better investment, I guess.
Yeah, on based on that idea, I should be feeding my cats fuel, gasoline, I guess. Because my car also uses energy to move and my cats use energy to move.
I mean, try to calculate the amount of food that you spend, like the money that you spend buying food for your cats versus the amount of work that your cat does for you. And you'll find out that it's a really bad investment. You should have spent that money on an AI instead. You should have spent that money on an AI.
24/7 being cute. Look at him.
How many lines of code did your cat code? Do you realize the money you spent on your cat would have been better spent on an AI?
As a matter of fact, this young gentleman has ruined multiple queries by walking around over my keyboard while I'm at the toilet. So an AI would be better than him.
All of that cat food would have been better spent on a Claude subscription.
Okay, somebody teach Claude how to purr.
I'm pretty sure you can. You can
getting
prompt
replaced by AI.
let me see if I can prompt a purr.
I want that. Sorry, the fact that I recognize more humanity in my cat than Sam Altman does say something about both me and him.
I typed "Can you purr" into Google. I can't physically purr because I'm an AI, but I can definitely generate a soothing engine-like purr just for you.
Can we not?
I'm not going to click on that link. No, thank you.
Thank you for not clicking on that link. Hey, meowie. Why did we put the most socially awkward people in charge of these things?
Teal, when he's asked whether we still need humans in the future.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would.
This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions and
should the human race survive?
Yes.
Okay.
But
no, we don't.
Unlike Peter Thiel, I do not hesitate when I tell you that I think Peter Thiel should not survive.
In Minecraft.
In Minecraft, hypothetically. I hate this man in Minecraft.
Now, we don't need to fix over everything. There's a huge amount of uncertainty here. But even if it substitutes for a meaningful fraction of what humans currently do, not all, just a fraction, the fiscal bargain weakens. And remember, we already have the most extreme concentration of wealth in history. In 1910, at the peak of the Gilded Age, the richest 0.00001% of US households owned wealth equivalent to 4% of national income. Today, that figure is 12%. America's super rich are already richer and more powerful than the original robber barons ever were. And AI is about to make it much, much worse. Because the labs building this technology are owned by a tiny group of people, a few early investors who stand to capture more of the world's wealth than any class of owners who ever lived. So, what do we do? Let me start with what we should not do. There is a temptation to look at all of this and conclude, shut it down, pull the plug, bring in the Luddites, smash the machines. And I get the impulse. When you stack up the scale of the risk, the disregard for democracy, the hubris of the people in charge, the cleanest response feels like a moratorium. Just say no. It is, I think, the wrong answer. And the reason is brutally simple. It doesn't work. Stop the data centers in California and they get built in Texas. Stop them in Texas and they get built in Abu Dhabi. Stop them in democracies, the places with civil liberties, with judicial review, with a free press, with worker protections, and you hand the future to autocracies. My point is not, absolutely not, that we have to let AI rip. My point is that abandoning the field is not the same as stopping the technology. This is the left's version of climate denial, refusing to engage seriously on the assumption that if we just shout no loudly enough, the future will go away. It won't. So, what does work? 3 things at minimum. One, state capacity. We need way, way more AI expertise and talent inside the government. The UK was early on this. They built an AI Security Institute, a serious arm of the state that actually evaluates frontier models, the way the FDA evaluates new drugs. I think every serious country needs a well-funded institute like that. Two, international coordination. We've been there before. In 1949, the United States and the Soviet Union both had nuclear weapons, and humanity briefly looked extinction in the eye. Out of that came treaties.
What happened to those treaties that have all disappeared by now? Like, literally, Russia has abandoned their nuclear treaty.
I think SALT expired like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they let all of these treaties expire, and now they're starting to redevelop, like invest in their nuclear programs, or nuclear weapons programs.
The investments in nuclear weapon programs are like really mediocre. This is nowhere close to what was going down in the 50s.
Yeah, you know why? Because they're investing in AI instead.
Yeah, but I don't think that AI is gonna kill me.
In military AI. Like, do you know how much AI, how instrumental AI was used to bomb Amirali's country?
Apparently more than I'm comfortable with, but...
Yeah, there you go.
But there is good news to this. The Ukrainians are also using a lot of AI to operate the stuff. So it's very reasonable that we help them defend themselves and then ask them for their expertise. Just hear me out on this, guys.
The thing that's frustrating
we
to me
have
is
an ally who's good at this.
I don't see any actual, like, the idea of countries coming together the way they did around nuclear non-proliferation to regulate AI in a coordinated fashion is just so incredibly unrealistic to me in the current state of geopolitics. When even within individual countries, they're resistant to regulating AI. And again, the thing that it would take to convince people to regulate AI is probably going to be the thing that makes it that where it's at that point, it's probably going to be already too late. So I'm hoping that this is a case of my baby has doubled its weight since it was born, and therefore, I hope this is a case of just we're overestimating the capacity of AI, and it's going to slow down. Because if it doesn't slow down, I don't see any realistic possibility for regulation.
The thing is, the nuclear proliferation treaties that happened after World War II happened because it was after World War II. The world had practically apocalypsed itself for a little bit. I don't think the modern consciousness truly comprehend how apocalyptic World War II was for those who experienced it directly. Yeah, because like through America we remember it, and it wasn't that bad for America, but Europe basically wiped itself out from top to bottom unless you were Switzerland. The Soviet Union took like 10% of its population as casualties. That's always fun. China was fucked into oblivion and would be for another 10 years. Japan had the sun dropped on them twice. The whole of Southeast Asia had been through an absolute slugfest. And, you know, South America was South America, which was not a good place to be at the time. Mm-hmm. So these treaties came about because these leaders came from a time when they were like, okay, how about we don't obliterate ourselves again? Let's see if we can fix this. Now, we haven't obliterated ourselves in a while.
If Gen Z or Gen Alpha was in power right now, we would be like, okay, fuck it, let's just obliterate ourselves because this is fucking tiring. Amirali saying where was it? I think it's gonna slow down with the bubble burst. But there's also other possibilities for it slowing down without the bubble bursting, like before the bubble starts bursting.
I've been talking about this, but we are reaching the current technological edge.
Exactly, like the
but there is people hard at work to expand this.
Like the AI boom of the last couple of years happened because we discovered a new way of making AI, which is large language models. And unless we find a new, even newer, even cooler way of doing AI, we're going to reach limits of what large language models can do fairly soon, in large part because literally they've consumed all of the data that is possibly available for them to train on. And so eventually they kind of run out of stuff that they can learn from the entirety of the internet. So yeah, they would have to figure out a new breakthrough of the level of the first ChatGPT for them to be able to continue to speed up, which is possible.
There are currently people who are developing hardware that might speed this up. People are joking that we might reinvent the cotton gin. I don't know about that. But look, what I'm trying to say is that both you and this gentleman are a bit of disaster doomers. But as much as this feels unique, not only just humanity, but like our current civilization has run into these issues before. Our biggest problem is that multiple issues are coalescing onto themselves. To rephrase what you said from your Germany video, the game of Monopoly and the game of Secret Hitler are coming to a crescendo. But also, I think it's important to point out that the crescendo is Benny Hill music. The United States is currently run by a fascist. By all means, that should be a disaster for the planet. And with the chance of accidentally inspiring national pride in Amir Ali, they're getting their ass handed to them by Iranians with shaheeds. I checked in the Bulgarian army manuals if there is any guides on like how to deal with shaheed drones. I literally rang up a guy who's in the army like, what do you do if like shaheed drones? But he said that the current Bulgarian guide manual is just shoot it. They fly slow enough that you can shoot it. And the US cannot handle that.
Yeah,
now there is a lot of factors involved.
I do find it very funny that the US is very much a case of, it's not so much that Iran is beating the US themselves, is that the US are beating themselves just from the fact that the war is lasting longer than they can possibly handle.
It's not just that.
It's okay. So they've built the most amazing weapons in history, but those weapons are so insanely expensive to run that they can't afford for a war to last longer than a couple of weeks now.
And now this is gonna sound brutal, but if the US Army, Navy, and Air Force, technically they have a Space Force too, but who cares, decide to put their back into it, fuck the budget and fuck the casualties, they can absolutely open Hormuz and break through the Iranian army. And then the domestic population is going to go berserk on them. Because the casualties would be insane. Not just of Iran's terrain. If you could put a treadmill from the Strait of Hormuz to Tehran and the US Army has to walk on it, there's still be insane amounts of casualties. So, you've played yourself into a corner by the virtue of incompetence and bad design over decades. So it's the Benny Hill music. And I'm sorry, I do not see Alice Weidel inspiring the German people into a second blitzkrieg. It's the same thing. As a matter of fact, what's the French homies guy? What's the French annoyance that is likely to win the presidency?
You mean the the current leader of the
Marine Le Pen's successor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even think he's going to be the candidate. I think there's a good chance that Marine Le Pen is going to be the candidate anyway. Bardella.
Isn't it illegal for her to be the Bardella? Yeah, he is actually a bigger problem than Alice Weidel.
Sorry, say that again while I research the status.
I think he's more problematic than Alice Weidel, is my point. Because he seems to have more competent people around him. The thing is that we are, as much as all of this is happening, we're reaching peak gerontocracy and peak incompetence in some of these positions. Because, Olivia is making fun of Biden here because she wants to defend Trump. Let's clarify that Biden was fucking old as shit and not running that country. And that spirals into incompetence as well. Every Democrat is just as responsible for the US military being in the state that it is. Just don't run your countries like these.
We will know if Marine Le Pen can run for the elections in exactly 1 month to the day.
Okay. We shall learn in a month. But yeah, what I think is important to notice is that the Benny Hill music is in full swing. And the important thing that everybody needs to do now is A, stay safe, find a way to protect those around them, and when the crescendo of stupidity hits a point We have to push towards like a better future.
Can I point
because
something?
the stupid is eating itself.
Can I point something out kind of funny about this Rutger Bregman video?
Sorry, can I address something that Amirali said in chat?
Sure.
He said, I have read something about the USSR. I feel like the US is run by people as old as Brezhnev and half as competent as him. Now, Amirali, I don't know how you know about the USSR, but I'm Bulgarian. I have some experience with what communist regimes do. The issue with communist regime, the one that fundamentally started all the other issues, is that the most important thing you had to do is be loyal to the party and loyal to an ideology. And everything else came from there. This is why old incompetent people ended up running the USSR. Because you had to have been proven to be loyal to communism and to the party for all your life to be in charge. The same thing is happening in the US. You have to be loyal to Israel, loyal to neoliberal capitalism, and loyal to like the fucking Democrats or Republicans. This is how you end up with idiots in charge. And it doesn't look to be improved. Yes, the United States is dying from the same disease that killed the Soviet Union. And at least to me it's very important we make sure that Europe doesn't go down with them. Because I'm not interested in experiencing their fate. And I do not see a way for like the United States to fix itself.
So yeah, I just wanted to point out that I'm 98% sure that the thumbnail for the video that we're currently watching was generated by AI.
Okay, we're hereby judging this man, Mr. Rutger Bregman?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's judge him.
I mean, I do think
everybody
it's kind of,
look at him judgmentally.
I do think it's a take to generate your thumbnail with AI. In a video about AI.
It's an artistic choice.
But I do,
and it's hard because there was a human involved.
This one is not AI generated. This one is not AI generated. But the latest one definitely has AI slop thumbnail vibe to it. Yeah, I don't think any of these are. This one might, but this one definitely yes. Anyway.
Let's finish watching.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect,
Before
yes. But they call us decades of
topic.
survival. We need something equivalent for AI. 3, the free world has to build. The US, with its increasingly fascist government, currently owns 74% of the world's compute. China has 14%, Europe less than 7%, and all other countries combined less than 5%. I'm really worried.
I do agree that that's a... I'm not saying that I want to start mass building AI data centers in the EU, but we do need to invest in European technology, which they're slowly doing, but they should have been doing this for the last 20 years.
I don't know if you saw the news from Friday, but on Friday they unveiled actual plan for this.
Yeah, I saw. But I'm just like, good.
There is a very...
Do a lot more of that.
Yes, but there is a very funny side effect of that plan that got unveiled on Friday.
Go ahead.
Just how you would argue with me whether GDPR is a labor law, part of that plan definitely involves Serbia becoming a member of the European Union. Which is just... like it wasn't strictly written out, but I am now betting money that the second Vučić is not in power, Serbia becomes a member of the European Union.
I'm not against that.
Because they have large resources, which would be very useful for that plan, and that plan clarifies the resources would not come from China or the United States. So where else could it be?
We need to be a little bit smarter about having better, in the same way that NATO never planned for what happens. Like they have a rule for a country entering NATO that they have to be a democracy, but they never planned for what happens if a NATO country stops being a democracy. There's no way to kick a country out of NATO without being like a unanimous vote from every other country. So I think, the EU needs to plan for a better system to kick countries out when they stop serving EU's interests, but I'm other than that, I'm for EU expansion.
Here is a bit of a warning on that front. The people who get punished for letting a country that's not a functional democracy into the EU is that the corruption systems become institutionalized. That's the Bulgarian problem. This is why we're going through right now. This is the thing I've learned the most from my foray into Bulgarian politics. That a lot of our institutions were just democratic enough and presented just democratic enough for us to skate by. Look, I'll make it very simple for everybody in chat. Bulgaria begged, borrowed, lied, still cheated, threatened, and did everything it could to get into NATO and the EU. we have anti-NATO and EU people now, but let's not worry about them. They're a flash in the pan. The point is that our corruption has now become institutionalized, and I have no idea how to fix it. We are attempting things. We'll see how far we get. But in a very indirect way, the EPP is technically involved in Bulgarian corruption. Now, they're not benefiting from it, and no, to my knowledge, Ursula von der Leyen is innocent. But because they have supported a party that's corrupt as fuck, it's not an incident that a corrupt party stayed in power in Bulgaria for so long. It was just useful to the EPP. The people they worked with were in charge of Bulgaria and had voting members in new parliament.
Mm-hmm. And
these things have consequences.
Amirali is pointing out that Portugal wasn't a democracy when they joined NATO. Fair enough. On the other hand, the US still had segregation when they created NATO, so yeah.
Yeah. Look, we have a lot of work to do. Like, I'm talking about Europeans here.
Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as citizens of the European Union, I'm sorry, but we are like kind of the ones who have the last still functioning democracy, and we have to do a lot of work. But I think it's doable. Contrary to your doomerism, I am rather optimistic about all of this. Because at least in Bulgaria, I see our corruption system cracking in very strange and funny ways. Like, the current Bulgarian government is, with an apology for the expression, but this is an expression from my hometown, they're attempting to unfuck the donkey. But the donkey is fucked, and you cannot unfuck a donkey. The polite expression of this is trying to shove the toothpaste back in the tube. And I don't know where this one's gonna go. I am not that smart. But with the appropriate amount of civil engagement and, to an extent, forcing our politicians to pay attention, we can get there. In the end of the day, I think that within the next year or two, the European Union stance on Israel is going to change. Maybe not as much as it should, maybe not as significantly as it should, but this is proof that we can still bully politicians into having some common sense.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, when you say that I'm a doomer, I always say, like, I don't think, oh, the world is over, we're all gonna die. I think things are really gonna suck, but as I always say, then they'll get better. We just have to, like, make it through the suck. So that's the thing.
And it's gonna suck.
Things are gonna suck really, really hard. That's the way in which I'm a doomer, but I'm an optimist in that I think we're gonna make it through it. Or maybe
I'm a big
not,
believer
but we
in
at
this
least
too
have to
shall
try.
pass.
Because if we don't try,
if the nukes fall, I was wrong.
Yeah, like, if we don't try to make it through it, then we're definitely not going to make it through it. But the only way to find out is to try. So that's the way in which I'm not a doomer. Yeah. But things are definitely going to suck.
Yep. That one's undeniable.
Yeah.
The question is how much and for how long. Yeah,
let's finish this.
Europe has been pretty good at regulating AI, but terrible at building it. In fact, all the American giants, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Nvidia, Alphabet, are individually worth more than the entire German or French stock market. Now, Europe does have more leverage than it often thinks. The company ASML, for example, is less than an hour from where I am right now in the Netherlands. It makes the lithography machines without which TSMC in Taiwan cannot fabricate the chips, without which Anthropic and OpenAI cannot train their models. The democratic countries working together still control significant choke points in this supply chain. That is real power. But my fellow progressives in Europe really need to understand that our welfare state, our way of life, is at stake. Just think it through. If AI does much of the work, but the profits flow to a handful of American giants that we barely tax, while European workers lose their jobs, then the tax base that funds our healthcare, our pensions, our unemployment insurance just evaporates. There's one thing I cannot emphasize enough. Democratic, liberal, and humanitarian values are wonderful, but they are worthless if you don't have the strength to back them up. And in this new world, compute is the new power. So no more NIMBYism. We need massive investments and fast permitting of data centers to keep up, or we will be digitally colonized. Anyone who's not at the table will be on the menu. Now, none of this works. None of it without a positive vision. And this, I think, is where liberals and the left have failed most badly. 12 years ago, I wrote a book called Utopia for Realists. I complained that the left mainly knew what it was against austerity, against the establishment, against homophobia, against racism, against billionaires, but it lacked a positive vision of where it wanted to go. My argument was that we should stop being so timid in our political imagination.
You know why he has a significantly worse hairline than me? Because he was writing books that were getting international attention 12 years ago. And I wasn't anywhere, I'm still not anywhere near that that level of
also to the people activity. In chat who are looking for where my position on techno-optimism from the left is coming, read Mike Fisher. He's like a French technology philosopher. Yes, by the way, I am yet again, as a European, selling my soul and admitting that the goddamn French were right. Are you proud of yourself, Stan?
I argued for a universal basic income, for the complete eradication of poverty. And I argued for a goal that the brilliant economist John Maynard Keynes laid out almost a century ago in 1930, the 15-hour work week. Keynes thought it was inevitable. He looked at the trajectory of productivity growth and concluded that by 2030, his grandchildren would be working a quarter as much as he did because the machines would be doing the rest. And the strange thing is, he was right about productivity, but he was wrong about who would benefit. The 15-hour workweek was technically achievable by the 1980s, but it didn't happen because the productivity gains were captured by capital, shareholders, and a rentier class. So wages stagnated, hours rose, and inequality exploded. If we let AI play out the same way, this is what we'll get. A handful of trillionaires who will own the tools that do most of the world's productive labor. Everyone else will be redundant. Not in the dignified, retire early and take up gardening sense, but in the cruel, anxious, gig economy sense. Universal poverty in a world of unimaginable abundance.
Yeah, gig economy. Gig economy is also the reason why people analyzing the current economy are able to say, oh, there's no recession, it's just a vibe session. People are just doomers because like unemployment is actually fine. When the employment is like people delivering, like doing Uber or food delivery or working in fast food when they have like a master's degree.
Yeah, sure, it's a vibe session. My grandma got given a house 60 years ago, and I had to get a 30-year mortgage for 140,000 euros for a commie block apartment. Hell of a vibe session over here. Mind you, I'm one of the lucky ones who managed to buy property. Because majority of like people my age have fuck all property.
The gig economy is all the... it's all the...
Uber Eats.
Uber Eats, all of these... Everything that's like, oh, I downloaded an app that I'm going to get tasks to do for other people on.
Without a contract. Without labor rights.
Without a contract, without social security, without unemployment, without any of that. Fun fact is,
Bulgaria is soon going to allow fast food delivery workers through all these apps to unionize. Like, Bulgaria has actually decided that, no, in Bulgaria it's Glovo and Takeaway who are the big ones. They said, no, actually you are employers. So we'll see what that shows. Because we snuck the law through and it's going nowhere for a while.
Aras the Devil, I saw the 3 Arrows video. Maybe we can watch that on the next on the next stream. What was I gonna say? Fuck. This always happens to me. It was about the gig. Oh yeah, you were talking about. You were able to buy an apartment. You know what I spent the money that I got from my sponsorship? That from the last video.
Was it rent?
I mean that too. It was also 6 months of unpaid electricity bills that I had like a backlog on. It's a minor miracle that my electricity didn't run out before I finished making that video. Because apparently by the time I paid the bill, I hadn't gotten to my apartment yet.
Oofed.
Yeah. Things are tight here.
Not good.
So please subscribe to Patreon. Anyway.
And yet I believe there is another path. The path some of the greatest thinkers actually promised us. Benjamin Franklin predicted that 4 hours of work a day would eventually be enough.
It would be hilarious if he used one of those, like, fake online quotes. Like the path on AI that the great thinkers
work week is actually banging.
John Stuart Mill thought technology should be used to shorten the work week as much as possible. Karl Marx imagined a world where we could hunt in the morning, fish in the afternoon, and discuss philosophy after dinner. And Oscar Wilde looked forward to the day when intelligent machines would become, in his words, the property of all. The whole point of building the most productive economy in history was that we would no longer have to spend our lives chained to bosses we hated, doing work that bored us just to put food on the table. So I think we should demand much more than just AI safety. We should demand AI abundance, AI that's built to help us flourish. That dream, the real dream of modernity, is finally within reach. Universal basic wealth.
Thank you, Amirali.
Every citizen with an automatic stake in the productive infrastructure of their society. Full unemployment in the original meaning of that phrase. Freedom from forced labor. The 0-hour work week, finally.
Wait, full unemployment? Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the promise. That was the promise. But none of it happens automatically. A century ago, the 8-hour workday was not given to us. We took it from the robber barons. We claimed it as our right.
Yeah, so the thing about that is this should be the most obvious thing in the world is like I am not against some of these. Like I think there are very real problems related to AI that we need to solve before we continue to invest as much as we are in it. But like as a technology, I do think that it has a lot of promise in some ways. The problem is we immediately need to start putting things into place in terms of UBI, in terms of an AI dividend that goes to everyone, to make up for all the jobs that are going to be lost. I saw there was the summary of of a study by a bunch of economists on AI, where the conclusion was, and I love the way that they put it, is like if things continue the way they're currently going, AI is going to bring the economy to boundless productivity and non-existent demand, because everyone is going to be out of a job, so no one can buy anything. It's like, oh, you have all the productivity in the world, but no one is able to buy anything because everyone is out of a job, apart from like the few billionaires at the top. And unless they want the world where everyone is doing the gig economy of doing, I don't know, they have an app where instead of it being, oh, this person wants a food delivered from here to here, it's gonna be, Claude Mythos needs you to deliver these resources from here to here and unplug this cable and like fix it and like wipe the dust out of this fan, and then you can go back to doing whatever. Like that's gonna be your gig economy is gonna be it's gonna be the AI data centers that are gonna ask you for individual maintenance jobs because that's the stuff that they can't do themselves.
Do you know what's the problem with that plan? There is a very obvious flaw in that.
Which one?
The one where we live in a fascinating world gig economy with big ass productivity and almost no demand because the average person is extremely broke.
I mean, there's a lot of problems with that plan, yeah?
Yeah, the biggest one is violence, though.
Yeah, I agree.
The broke people are not gonna sit back and be broke.
Yeah,
in the end, there is always a crazy politician willing to emphasize the broke people, saying like, maybe we just kill a little bit.
Why do you think Peter Thiel was saying that he wasn't sure if humans should survive?
Right, and I think you heard my response to that. And I'm saying that my outcome is more likely than his. Because he needs humans to keep him alive. I don't know what's his plan. Is the thing, unless there is something gigantic, yeah.
Jaakko is saying this all sounds weird because in Finnish gig economy is an innuendo for human trafficking. In English too, my friend. Not literally, but basically.
No, the thing is, like, unless there is something very major I completely miss or don't understand here, this is unsustainable. There is people in the United States right now burning down warehouses. Like what? The 3 different warehouses catch fire in the last couple months. There was a fire on the USS Gerald Ford, which is most likely caused by US sailors preferring to burn their aircraft carrier than go to war. This whole plan, that plan is made by people who don't understand how the average person works.
Speaking of, we got a news flash from Amorali. President Trump said, I was going to sign an agreement on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, but now this is happening. I have to say,
what is this?
Trump saying, I was going to sign an agreement on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. I would ask Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday of which of the 20 past weeks, because he's been saying that every week for the past 3 months at this point.
No, you need to expand your imagination. There is like 20 past weeks and an infinite amount of future weeks with Monday, Wednesdays, and Tuesdays on them.
It's
so
Trump might say it's always Monday somewhere.
You know, when I worked shortly after graduating high school, I worked in a job and my salary was late. And I sent a message and saying when is salary gonna come, and they sent a response saying after Easter, because this was like a few days before Easter. Notably, they didn't clarify after which Easter, and they still owe me like 30 euros 12 years later. So my point is that this feels like that. At some point, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, there will not be war between Iran, the US, and Israel.
It's just not in the foreseeable future, is what I'm saying.
There will be a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday when the Strait of Hormuz is open again. That's for sure.
But by the way, I think we might be closer to a deal than publicly said, because Italian and Spanish mine clearing ships are gathering close to Gibraltar last week. So I guess like the European Union thought that, there might be a deal coming.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, let's quickly finish this.
We'll see.
20 years ago, Al Gore stood on his scissor lift and showed us a line that went off the chart. He was right. The war he warned us about did arrive. But the political response was so weak, so late, so half-hearted that we are now living with the consequences. And we are about to make the same mistake. Perhaps even worse, because the timeline is shorter. In 2005, climate denial was a problem of the right and the left rolled its eyes. In 2026, AI denial is a problem of the left and the oligarchs are laughing. So I want to be...
I'm really not convinced by the entire framing of this video is frustrating to me because I haven't seen anyone completely dismissing AI as like not being a problem. The people that I've seen criticizing AI as being spicy autocomplete or as being stochastic parrots or whatever the term was, that doesn't mean that it's not a threat. None of these people are saying, oh, this is not a threat, this is not going to have an impact on the world. Of course it is. So I think I think a lot of the points that he's making in this video are valid, but the framing kind of breaks the entire narrative of the video in my opinion.
Yeah. Also, like, just because you are minimizing or dismissing something doesn't mean you can't protect yourself from it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the end of the day, COVID was just flu on steroids. Yeah. But we all took measures. It was just a very strong and easily spreadable respiratory disease, which technically the flu is as well. But it could have caused a lot of danger, so we all took measures. The problem is that, like, we have triggers for this in a pandemic and we don't for the AI. But I think what we both agree on is that things are gonna suck and it's gonna get worse, and then they're gonna get better. I just do not think that there is like a point after which there is no repair. I am pretty sure that things will be fixed. My problem is that at current times it seems that it's gonna be a very sucky 10 years. And I wasn't
that sounds like a
planning to spend my midlife crisis, considering the current average lifespan for a Bulgarian man is 62 years. I am currently in my midlife crisis trying to deal with Bulgarian politics, mathematically speaking. Okay. But hey, that seems to be what we're doing.
Anyway, yeah, I think I think we're good on this video. There's like 30 seconds left. I think might as well finish the 30 seconds. I guess.
Be very direct, especially with the people who think of themselves as my political family. Stop the denial. Stop pretending this is hype. Stop calling it a lumbering stochastic pattern matching pair.
Okay, none of this. Like again, the literally the last 30 seconds are doubling down on the kind of frustrating framing of the video. Anyway, okay. I'm sorry that we weren't able to play Project Epic Furious. Hopefully the website comes back online so we can play it at some point in the near future. But if I want to manage to stream 3 times a week, I'm going to try to take it easy and call it a day for today and like stream 3 to 4 hours at most, which it's already been 3.5 hours at this point. So try
maybe there'll be contributions from me once a week, but yeah, I'm gonna check out as well.
Okay. Thanks for joining.
It's almost 12 here. Yeah, my pleasure.
Everyone in chat, thanks for joining. Amirali, stay safe. And
Amirali, stay safe. Everybody else have a good weekend, and Olivia, go dunk yourself in the English channel. And for everybody else,
safe.
have
Olivia,
a good one.
Don't. And
yeah, basically.
And everyone else, I will see you on Tuesday, same time. And same channel, by the way. And last thing, if you aren't already subscribed to this channel, the Barely Infodumps channel, please do. Because it would be very cool if we were able to get this channel monetized as well, which would help fund a little bit more of the videos on the other channel.
And like the stream and go subscribe to Stan's Patreon so he can pay his electricity and potentially you might get more cat.
Yes,
I'm sorry I woke you up. I'm so sorry.
You were
napping so well. Oh.
I'm going to conclude the stream with more cat as well.
Alright everyone, have a good one.
Neeners, look. Me. Okay. I will see you. Other cat right there having a snooze. I will see you on Tuesday